We are live! Hello! Everybody, hype season is upon us! How is it going? Are you all prepared to get extremely excited? How is it going? Morning all! Hello there, Crypto Kev. Hello there, Pixie, Don Jackson, and more. Welcome to the stream today. It feels like it's been forever since I've streamed, although I know that it was only 2 weeks ago. But still, it feels like I haven't been in the saddle for a while. It really does. Let me fix my hair. Gotta love the headset, you know? How's it going, everybody? Coming through loud and clear. Thank you very much. Great night gaming. I've still been getting everything set up with this new I've got a new setup, really, the last couple of weeks. So everything has still been a little bit in flux, but now I've got it all sort of settled a little bit more. Apologies if I sound a little bit strained today. I've had a lot of recording to do on my side. I've had a lot of videos and stuff like that to work on. And you know what my videos are like, guys. There's a lot of screaming. There's a lot of squealing. There's a lot of jumping. There's a lot of hooting and a hollering. So what that means is that my voice right now is pretty it's been pretty broken, you know, like the Batman and the Dark Knight Rises. I have been broken. I thought the darkness was my ally, and yet alas, I'm but a guest of the shadows. How is it going, everybody? 2 weeks is forever in ADHD terms, says Matt. That is very, very true. It feels like a really long time. Yes, so this is hype season, guys. Adepticon is coming, the biggest show of the year when it comes to miniature wargaming, when it comes to big properties like Warhammer and Warhammer 40k. Next week, it's a coming, and that means that, you know, obviously there's got to be a lot of speculation, because this event isn't going to hype itself up, you know what I'm saying? So I think it is time that we do a lot of sexy little speculation. I also want to hear from you guys as well, because frankly, Adepticon, there's a lot of stuff at Adepticon, and it's pretty much impossible to contain it in one single brand. So I'm gonna need your help. Give me some ideas about what we're expecting, not just when it comes to like Warhammer and like Games Workshop, but also when it comes to some other properties as well. Rashan Warseer says, is Mantic Games still a thing? Haven't heard of anything about them in forever. Mantic Games are still a thing. Mantic Games, for those who don't know, are a miniature war game company. They sell quite a lot of war games. They sell Kings of War, which is a very famous rank and flank game. They also sell Dead Zone 2, which is a very strong sci-fi game. They do skirmish games. They do, you know, larger war games, kind of more akin to like Warhammer sized games. And yeah, so I think Mantic Games are actually at a little bit of might be struggling a little bit. And why I say that is because Mantic Games, for the longest time, since they were sort of first constructed, they originally got their big break at the end of Warhammer Fantasy. You remember the days? Well, you might not remember, but you've probably heard of the days of when Warhammer Fantasy was destroyed by Games Workshop, and it was forgotten about. It was left behind. And Mantic Games had a game called Kings of War. I can't remember if it came out after Warhammer Fantasy or it was out around the same time. I think it might have been a new edition came out. And Kings of War is a rank and flank game, and it very much basically was a new home for a lot of Warhammer Fantasy fans. And that kind of speaks to the modus operandi of Mantic Games. They're one of those companies that kind of follows on the heels of Games Workshop and sort of presents an alternative Warhammer. And that's how they are positioned in the market, perhaps unfairly, but that is how they tend to be positioned. What that means, though, is that whenever you have a company like Games Workshop doing really well, it means that Mantic Games will struggle a little bit more. But not only that, I think that more and more we're seeing the company one-page rules come out and very much be the Warhammer the non-Warhammer game for Warhammer players. And what I mean by that is, it is the alternative to Warhammer. Whenever people are sick of Warhammer 40k, maybe like the stratagems or, you know, the systems or the, you know, the people are like fed up with it. They don't like Games Workshop for whatever reason. They'll tend to go to one-page rules these days, whereas before it used to be Mantic Games. So yeah, I agree. I don't really hear much about Mantic Games compared to maybe how much I used to hear about them like 3 years ago, but they're still around. I think they're still doing fine. It's just that since then there have been a lot more competitors come onto the market, and Mantic Games in comparison to the way they used to be, which was pretty much the one big alternative to Warhammer. These days, Mantic Games, they're kind of having to compete a little bit more, and I don't think that their marketing is particularly strong. This is actually a problem. Before we get into that Adepticon, it's actually funny to talk about it in the context of Adepticon, because I think that a lot of miniature wargame companies actually struggle when it comes to advertising. I think a lot of them kind of suck at it, and that's a really big problem. Now, Adepticon obviously is a huge convention. It's massive. I think it's the biggest in the world, right? Adepticon is probably the biggest convention for wargaming in the world, and at that stage, we're going to see lots and lots of companies try to compete with one another. But yeah, everybody's talking about Warhammer, right, when it comes to Adepticon. Chaos Dwarfs, says Jungle Camper. Just throws it in there. Chaos Dwarfs! Yes, I think we might see Chaos Dwarves at Adepticon. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good shot. Maybe. Although, okay, so that will be getting into the content of today's stream. Old World Teasers JK Applesauce is coming up with. That's going really hot in. New Primaris Marine Lieutenant, says Red Oborus. I mean, come on, like rain or shine, it's a Thursday. New Primaris Marine Lieutenant is pretty much a given, right? Pixie says, I'm hoping that Mantic reveal what Kings of War factions are getting updates, maybe more of their ambush boxes. So yeah, Kings of War, they have these new, Mantic Games have been pushing these new ambush box sets that I'm excited about. I actually kind of like the look of them because they are bundles, but they're pretty affordable, I think. They look pretty good. CryptoCat, thank you very much for the gifted Discourse Minis membership out there. Lieutenant Sobel was just gifted that membership, so thank you very much for that, CryptoCat. That's very kind of you. Kudo says, Mantic might show their new Dungeon Saga at Adepticon. Maybe. So Mantic, I think, Mantic Games, for a second, I think they struggle in a couple of different arenas. I think, first of all, they don't have a very consistent art style, which doesn't help them. And also, a lot of their older minis, I think, don't look that great. A lot of their newer minis look really good, though. So, for example, I am very, I was going to say outspoken, but I think most people agree with me. The Halfling range for Kings of War from Mantic Games looks absolutely fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love the Halfling range for Kings of War. They're absolutely fantastic. But it'll be interesting to see what Mantic Games come out with. I'm hoping that they do come up with something pretty hot, pretty big, pretty sexy. Okay, so yeah, Bradley Oates says that's also Mantic Games Orcs Army box bundles for $50. That's the kind of price. Mantic Games are very much, they kind of set themselves up as the budget version of Warhammer in a lot of ways, you know? But the game mechanics in some of their games are really good. Now, I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage talking about Mantic Games because I have never actually played any of them, as much as I actually have a Halfling box set, but I've never actually played any of the games. So I do need to get to play them. I want to play them, I think, around the same time that Warhammer Fantasy comes out, so I can compare it and contrast. Okay, so Adepticon, it's coming. It's next week. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be sexy, and I cannot wait for it. I'm really looking forward to it. I absolutely love. So, really, my one disappointment in Adepticon right now, gonna be a little bit spicy perhaps. My one major disappointment with Adepticon is that I will not be going. Okay, maybe not that spicy. I love conventions, and I did not know this. My first time I ever went to a convention was last year. I went to the UK Games Expo. For the first time ever, I went to a big convention. Oh my God, guys, it was absolutely fantastic. If you ever get the opportunity to go to any games convention, any big one, I 100% recommend it. If there is something really magical about being in essentially what is paradise, right? You're just surrounded by games, surrounded by miniatures, surrounded by vendors, surrounded by people who are enthusiastic about it. I absolutely adore it. It's so infectious in terms of the joy that those things bring to me. I just absolutely had a real blast. So I kind of wish I could go to Adepticon, because that's pretty much the mecca, the game of mecca, right? That's where a lot of the that's where like almost every single company will be there, and it will all be huge, and the game store is massive. And I threw something onto the ground in my enthusiasm there. They say this channel isn't positive. Okay, so Dead Zone is an interesting idea, but one page rules. Yes, it's Andre. That's kind of the problem, I think. So, okay, Adepticon. There's been a lot of talk about Adepticon this year because this is the big year. This is the big year when it comes to Warhammer, because those who follow Games Workshop, those who follow Warhammer a lot will know that basically a new version, a new edition of Warhammer tends to come out every 3 years. This is basically Games Workshop's cycle because, well, they love to release new editions. Essentially, if you read a lot of their business reports, you know, their annual reports and things like that, they will always make reference to the fact that this year isn't a release year, and so therefore, you know, we can't be held to the same standards as, like, 2 years ago or last year. I think last year's annual report Games Workshop released to their show holders, they actually said something to the effect of, as always, as you well know, whenever we release a new edition of Warhammer 40k, that is our greatest and most profitable year of all time. But this year was really good and almost reached that apex. That was whenever they were doing really well over the pandemic. So Games Workshop are very well aware of the fact that a new edition of Warhammer 40k tends to make them a lot of money, and so therefore they like to make sure that there is a new edition of Warhammer 40k that comes out pretty regularly, and we're on a 3-year cycle essentially. So we last saw 9th edition in 2020, right? Has it been? Yeah, because 2017 was 8th edition, 2020 was 9th edition, 2023, I mean, this writes itself, right? Like, this writes itself. We're probably more likely going to see 10th edition. So that is my first big major prediction. Adepticon, we're going to first see our 10th edition stuff. Although everybody is basically guessing that one. So I'm not betting any armies on that bad boy. You almost missed the start there, Alignment Nick. Don't worry, I almost miss the start every single time. I don't know how the hell this thing turns on. I don't know how it turns off. Nimble Tack says UK Games Expo was wonderful. It's a big event for me every single year. Yeah, I absolutely adored it, and yeah, it's absolutely awesome. Amu, Adepticon, where GW would drop the 10th. Hopefully they don't rush it again. I think we're 100%. We are going to see 10th edition Warhammer. I think that is pretty much guaranteed. Now, we did see a teaser trailer come out from Games Workshop, and it was a very slight teaser trailer. So for those who haven't seen the trailer, very quickly, it's essentially just the face of a Tyranid, and you can see its eye, and then in the reflection of the eye you see a Space Marine Terminator. So most people are rating that to be a 10th edition teaser. I actually don't know about that. We're going to talk about that in a minute, because I actually am a little bit more skeptical about that being 10th edition related. Well, actually, you know what? Let's talk about it now. So, in the actual eye of the beholder of the Tyranid, it looks like there's a Tyranid. There looks like there's a Space Marine Terminator. However, we also concurrently to that have a ton of rumors that there is going to be a Tyranid versus a Blood Angels box set, essentially as the starter set. If you guys remember, every single time there's a new edition of Warhammer, there is always a new starter set that tends to be of relatively good value. Basically, it tends to be the best value that you're going to get of Warhammer ever again, because after that stage the box sets tend to be worse than that value box set. So not to say that this one will be good compared to some of the previous years one, it just means that it's going to be the best one going forward, because the box sets of Warhammer slowly lose value, right? They're getting worse and worse and worse basically as time goes on. So, there have been rumors that the starter set box set for Warhammer 10th edition is going to be a Blood Angels versus Tyranids box set, and this teaser seems to basically confirm that, right? There is a Tyranid face, there is a Terminator in its eye. I mean, come on, let's smash that together. 10th edition Warhammer's likely to come out in Adepticon. We got ourselves a box set tease here, right? But I'm actually not 100% sure about that, because the actual trailer that was shown, the teaser that was shown by Games Workshop, the Terminator inside the eye of the Tyranid doesn't look like a Blood Angel. It looks closer to be an Ultramarine to me. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, but it looks a little bit closer to being an Ultramarine. And so that actually makes me be that makes me go a little bit suspicious. That makes me go, that makes me squint my eyes a little bit and look at it sideways. I'm actually beginning to suspect, okay, this is maybe more of a spicy take. This is maybe more of a spicy speculation. I want to know what you guys think about this one. I suspect, right, Games Workshop typically, like in the last couple of years, they've been pretty heavy on the nostalgia. Right, they love themselves some nostalgia. And generally speaking, in terms of nerd culture, so like Hasbro and things like that, they have been very, very... Food is on the gas when it comes to nostalgia. I think it's fair to say. And I suspect that this is partly because there's a lot of people who maybe were younger whenever a lot of these games like Hero Quest came out, whenever Dungeons and Dragons were sort of like starting to get big back in like the 80s. Those people are now in positions where they get to decide what products get made, and now they are making nostalgia type content. And I think that what that means is that actually what that teaser might be showing is not the new 10th edition box set, but a brand spanking new Space Hulk. Either for the game Space Hulk starter set or a Kill Team themed starter set box set where we've got Terminators versus Tyranids. And I think thematically that is actually going to be linked in with the starter set for Warhammer 10th edition. I think it's going to be this cross sort of like, you know the way they love doing that now, you got your seasons. I think the next season is going to be like Space Hulks sort of stuff, because like right now we're in a Space Hulk season thing that's going on. I think that the 10th edition starter set might be like the soft offboarding of the boarding patrol stuff that is going to be seen at the end of 9th edition. What do you guys think about that one, huh? What do you guys think about that one? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Space Hulk incoming since Fatality Red. Yeah, I think that we might be getting some Space Hulk. I think we might be getting some Space Hulk. Andre says they were scrapping the barrel of all the classic things. It feels like everything right now is coming back. It's like everything is coming back from my childhood. I'm like seeing it, I'm being blasted in the face by all the stuff that I kind of barely half remembered. First Dog says, could be any chapter if it is a new edition of Space Hulk. We lack information though. I think that if they do a new version of Space Hulk, I think it should be Ultramarines, right? It didn't Space... So you guys correct me wrong, because I'm going to reveal another deep dark secret. Guys, I do this every single stream. I always reveal one deep dark secret at least. This stream, deep dark secret from the depth of my soul to you on the other side of the camera. I tell you right now, I haven't played Space Hulk. I have never played the physical version of Space Hulk. I think I played it like once, and I can't really remember it. I was pretty young, and I don't remember being like particularly like, "Ooh, this is amazing." I'm gonna be honest, but I was pretty young at the time. I only got like the one game in. I didn't really play Space Hulk, so I'm not like super clued in. I'm not like super like hyped about Space Hulk. But Space Hulk was it not designed to sort of reflect a specific moment in the history of Warhammer 40k when the Tyranids were first encountered by the Ultramarines, right? And they had to send in that suicide mission to try and destroy that single hive fleet of Tyranids, and it was like, oh, the cost was so disgustingly high, all these Space Marines died. Is that not the case? Was that not the case? EOD says, hi, no offense, did she brew her coffee with Red Bull today, or does she always talk this fast? I'm sorry to say, guys, this is just me. I get hyped, I get excited, I have a lot of fun. I'll be honest, whenever I watch YouTube videos, I do tend to put it on 1.5 to 2.0 times speed. This is how I roll. I can slow it down. It takes me a conscious effort to do so. We're only streaming for a couple of hours, guys. I gotta fit a lot of detail in here. Matt says that's less of a deep dark secret and more of the mainstream unless you're outside of a certain age range. Well, maybe. I think that the common consensus that whenever you get any sort of marketing thing that goes on with, like, say, for example, Space Hulk, at that stage you do tend to get everybody seems to have played the game. Everybody's like coming out of the work being like, I remember this game was incredible. The same was with Dungeon Bowl. Now I know it's probably just like a louder minority. The same was with Dungeon Bowl. It's like when I remember whenever Dungeon Bowl got announced by Games Workshop, everyone was like, Dungeon Bowl is back, I can't wait for this. And I remember being like, what the hell is Dungeon Bowl? Like, I knew what Blood Bowl was, but Dungeon Bowl? So it always feels like I'm behind, like I'm out of the loop on this one. I'm like, oh, geez, I've been playing Warhammer since like 2004, and I'm like, what the hell is this thing? Matt says, I think they structure Space Hulk around the way they launched Black Fortress this time around. I think that, yeah, if they do Space Hulk at Adepticon, which is, I think is looking pretty likely. I don't know how much I want to bet on that, though. I got a bad track record with bets on this channel. I think that we're probably going to be seeing something that's a little bit more expandable, something that isn't like just a box set of one and done, a way you pop sort of experience. I think because originally Curse City was meant to be like that, right? And then they I think that was a mess up on Games Workshop's part. I think the Space Hulk will probably be a lot more modular, a lot more expandable. But likewise, I think it could also just be literally a Kill Team themed box. I really do. I think it could be a Kill Team themed box. Thank you very much for the donation there, Curtis Thompson. That's really very kind of you for the $2 donation. Says, still have the previous Space Hulk in my closet. That's really, really awesome. Oscar says, Space Hulk was my gateway game to GW. I think that these big kind of like these one and done starter sets, or sorry, these one and done starter sets, Jesus, these one and done kind of box sets, I think that they are great. I think that they are actually great introductions to wargaming. I have a really, okay, this is like a really spicy take. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on stream before. This is like a really spicy take. It actually gets, I have mentioned it on stream before. I did. I mentioned in my last stream that I'm beginning to suspect that actually Warhammer players are less inclined to move into other war games as compared to people who just play board games. And I think that actually getting people into Warhammer from board games is very well achieved by gateway products like Space Hulk or like Warhammer Underworld. I think does attract quite a lot of people from board games into the kind of wargaming sphere, into the Warhammer sphere. What do you guys think about that? Nibbletak says, I've honestly never heard of Dungeon Bowl till this recently, and I was around for the first edition 40k. Yeah, me too, honestly. I had never heard of Dungeon Bowl before at all, except for like maybe I might have heard it and I just kind of dismissed it because it wasn't really something that I was super really that into. Ian Briggs says, first edition Space Hulk was Blood Angels versus Gene Stealers. My goodness, was it? Was first edition? That was like the 90s, right? That was when the Gene Stealers looked really funky. Isn't that correct? Because I've seen the trailer, I think, for that one. I think I've seen the advert that they showed on terrestrial television. Amu says, it wouldn't surprise me if it was just a Warhammer Quest re-released. Wasn't there? No, I'm thinking of Hero Quest. I think Hero Quest was recently re-released, right? Isn't that the case? Yeah, a lot of people's early 90s GW was Space Crusade, so that theory checks. Okay, so I think, okay, that is one spicy take. I don't think that the teaser trailer is actually 10th edition. I think that it's actually towards some sort of Space Hulk themed release. However, nevertheless, I think we're also still at the same stage going to see 10th edition Warhammer get announced at Adepticon in time for it to be announced now. It's going to be like what, like late March, beginning of April, for a June/July release of the actual 10th edition starter set. I mean, Adepticon is typically the biggest reveal event. I think it makes sense to see that there. And it feels like almost like a slam dunk, really. And I think at the actual event as well, in terms of specifics, we're going to see the starter box. I think we're going to see, at the very least, maybe not the entire makeup of the starter box, but we're going to see the theme. And I think the theme is going to be Blood Angels versus Tyrannys, I think, is what we're going to see. We might see some Primaris jump troops, right? We might see some sexy Primaris jump troops, which I'm actually kind of hyped about. I actually do think that will be pretty cool. I'm genuinely, I have missed jump troops. I've got a friend. He plays and collects Space Marines, but he has a lot of Firstborn stuff. He doesn't have a lot of Primaris stuff, so he still has the jump troop stuff. Whenever I was building my army of Space Marines that I'd made because of my last foolish bet, I had to put together a bunch of Primaris Space Marines, and I kind of forgot just how big those guys are, just how big the Primaris are, and I think that some jump troops in that scale will look pretty sexy, will look pretty cool. So I'd be happy to see some jump troop Primaris, and I think we will see some teases of that. What do you guys think about that? Red says Battlefleet Gothic. You think so? People are asking me if I'm gonna bet. Marvin Nunez says, will you bet? I don't know, guys. I don't want to get pulled into your web, into your wicked web. Sean Saltzman says Primaris jump infantry, please. Yes, I mean, look, I think that some of the Primaris line, some of the big problems that it has is that its jump troops look really bad, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of the kind of hover guys. You know what I mean? If you're gonna hover, do it on a board, right? I don't like this kind of jetpack where you've got this big bulky guy going whoa, like he looks like he's kind of falling backwards, like he doesn't know how the hell to control his own jump pack. The actual assault troops though, with the jetpacks, like that acts more like a jump, like an actual jump, as opposed to like a I'm hovering in the air, you best look out. Kind of reminds me of the Rocketeers from Command & Conquer Red Alert 2, they just look a little bit clumsy, a little bit clunky to me. I want some of them elegant, you know, angels of death coming from above, like landing down on the enemy, knocking all the orcs going flying everywhere, and they start chainsawing things. That's what I want to see. I think that would be sick. And get some Primaris action in there, because let's be honest, I think that the Firstborn, I think they were on the way out. I think that the Firstborn are on the way out. Not like permanent, like not like they're not going to get sold anymore, because I think those Space Marines are going to get sold forever, because it's basically free real estate. It's free real estate for Games Workshop. Selling the Firstborn is basically costs them almost nothing, and if they sell, then they sell, because they're just almost pure profit at this stage. Although one of the big concerns I think that Games Workshop have with the Firstborn range is that it's probably taking up space where other things could be getting produced, you know, being manufactured by Games Workshop. But I think that we're going to see the beginning of the end of the beginning, right? We're gonna see the beginning of the Firstborn start to get phased out, perhaps in the rules, and then over time stop getting released altogether. And so I would like to see some of the Primaris stuff come to kind of replace those, because frankly, I think a lot of the complaints that people have about Primaris is in terms of the aesthetic. And I think if they bring back a lot of the Firstborn aesthetic to the Primaris line, that will actually get more people on board with the Primaris transition. I know that we've been going for, I know this has been ongoing for like 7 years now, but there's still a lot of people, I think, who aren't like 100% satisfied with the direction of the Primaris. I think if we take more Firstborn aesthetic, plop them onto the Primaris, I think that we'll get more people who would be more inclined to be okay with the idea that the Firstborn stuff is no longer being supported, because ultimately, really, where we need to get to is a place where the Primaris, which is what the Primaris should have been in the first place, is just a rescaling of Marines so that they're true scale. If you look at the Primaris Space Marines, which I have done so, if you put them beside the new Imperial Guard and you have a look at them, they actually look really cool now. The scaling actually seems to work, which was never the case when it came to Firstborn and the old Imperial Guard models. The scaling always looked a bit weird, but now the scaling looks really, really good. And I'm excited for that. I actually like that. Aesthetics are so important in a miniature war game. They're almost everything, because if they weren't, we'd all be playing with little chits, little cardboard chits with a picture of a Space Marine helmet on it and going ha ha ha, like the war games from the 70s. Scython Nilo says, we will never be on the way out. We will hold our ground for the Eternal Emperor on Terra. I'm sorry to say, Scython, I think that the Firstborn stuff is going to be getting kind of, basically, people who are really into Firstborn, Games Workshop are probably kind of positioning 30k, the Horus Heresy stuff, to be the playground of the Firstborn stuff. In a lot of ways, I'm starting to suspect that Horus Heresy has been sort of sold and constructed as the domain of the kind of more old school players, and 40k, especially with some of the rumors that we've been hearing about 40k is being positioned as like the newer, they're starting to be a little bit more comfortable with making changes to the game's core formula, because now they got 30k, they got Horus Heresy as the sort of, if you don't like the changes, go play 30k. I think that might be the business model that Games Workshop are starting to move towards when it comes to the future. Same almost with the fantasy side of things, where Age of Sigmar is very, very different. But then if you don't like, if you wanted the old school kind of rank and flank kind of product and gameplay, then you've got Warhammer Fantasy. What do you guys think about that one? Because we have heard rumors about 10th edition Warhammer being quite different when it comes to rules, that they're actually doing a bit of a shake-up when it comes to the rules of 10th edition. And I'm curious to see whether anything is spoken about there. Like, is this Adepticon reveal going to be just like showing miniatures? Is it just going to be a case of, yes, 10th edition is coming, here are some cool minis, here's the Dante model, that's new, right? And then after that, they're just like done, right? They're like, okay, now we're on the Age of Sigmar. What I would love to see is them to actually show some gameplay of 10th edition. That's what I want. Or will they be holding that up their sleeve to begin the kind of hype cycle? As we get closer to the game, they start revealing more and more and more. They're like, we're getting rid of 2 wound rules. Because to be perfectly frank, as someone who has played Warhammer for a really long time, who's played a lot of Warhammer, and who has played a ton of different miniature war games. I mean, just today, I was looking at the Silver Bayonet. I'm hoping to play some of that very soon. And its new expansion as well. I'm interested in gameplay. Like, I am interested in gameplay. I'm not just here collecting minis. I want to play the games. And so the new, like, hearing about a gameplay update to 40k really, really excites me. It really excites me. And in fact, it's one of those things that could get me back on board with Warhammer in a really, really big way. Because if there is a good game there, I am hyped for it, you know, and we can talk about other stuff. But I am really, 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 really excited for the idea that Games Workshop might be updating the core formula of Warhammer 40k. Famously, Games Workshop have always been extremely conservative when it comes to the gameplay of Warhammer 40k. I mean, Rick Priestley left in like 2008 because they wouldn't allow him to innovate on the gameplay. Then he went on to create Bolt Action, one of the greatest miniature war games that have ever been made in terms of the gameplay mechanics. And I want to see what they got. Like, I want to see like some new updates. I know there's a lot of people who'd be a little bit worried about that, who maybe like Warhammer 40k right now, but I think as a game it does need to innovate. What do you guys think about that and Adepticon? Omnial says, I would love to see a skirmish 40k, Sensei where you play warbands and upgrade them over time, something similar to Mordheim for 40k or 5 parsecs from home. In a lot of ways, I think that should have been Kill Team. I think that style of gameplay where you have like 5 Space Marines or you got like 12 guardsmen and you upgrade them and they, you know, you buy different weapons for them and stuff, that should have just been Kill Team. Now, I actually don't have bad words to say about the newest version of Kill Team, except for the business model has really sucked. Obviously, the box sets really sucked. Obviously, the compendium when it first came out was an absolute rip-off, a complete scam, almost. I think it is really very close to being adjacent to being a scam. Did not like this idea. I think as a concept, the idea that, oh, the Kill Teams that we released specifically for the game are really strong, and then the Kill Teams that are more generic are, like, really rubbish. I think that sucks. That's, like, a really bad anti-consumer move. I did not like that at all. But in terms of the actual gameplay of Kill Team, I was really happy to see that they were trying to innovate a little bit. They were trying to do something new, something a little bit off the beaten path whenever it came to like Warhammer gameplay. But then ultimately, I think the Games Workshop games, when they're at their best, at least in terms of the skirmish size, are kind of like Mordheim, are like the old school style of Necromunda, where you literally have a ton of customization. You build your guys, you buy their equipment, you know, and they kind of level up, they get injuries, they lose an eye, they go, I'm a pirate now, and that kind of, and you have this narrative thrust to all of these games. That is what really excites me, because that creates the storytelling, right? Because let's all be honest, let's take off our high hat here, let's take the gloves off a little bit, settle down, leave our coat over on the coat rack, and let's all just acknowledge the reality. Games Workshop aren't incredible when it comes to making balanced games. Okay, let's just let that off our chest. Games Workshop aren't great when it comes to balanced games, and so they can hide a little bit when they make these movements towards saying, well, it's a bit of a narrative game. Well, it's not really specifically designed to be super balanced. It's meant to be a narrative game. Yeah, you ruled really badly. Yeah, you just lost your warband leader. Okay, and your best character now has a broken arm and has been rendered useless. And yeah, alright, you're gonna lose every single match going forward. But you know, it's a narrative game. It's about these types of stories. You have to chuckle away and grin and bear it. And I think that sort of style of like game creation, that style of gameplay, gives Games Workshop a little bit of shadow to kind of hide with it when it comes to the balance. Whereas these days, where they're starting to focus more on the kind of competitive play, which I'm not against, and I'm not against them trying to make it a more balanced experience. I just think that that's a harder proposition for them to achieve. So I'm actually curious about hearing about that. But whenever you do these types of like games like Mordheim, for example, like Mordheim isn't terribly imbalanced. From what I understand, Mordheim is the game where you just have to both agree that you're not going to go all in on ranged, because otherwise the game is just not fun, right? If I'm playing Skaven and I go, I'm going to bring 12 Skaven slingers, everyone else is like, well, I guess you win every match, and this is a miserable play experience. And I actually think that is bad game design, like to be able to do that. But Games Workshop were able to get away with it a little bit more because they go, well, it's a narrative game, so don't don't do that. You know, it's that classic, like if everybody just agrees to like house rule the game and they can fix it, well, that's still bad game design. I shouldn't have to house rule these problems, but that's kind of getting into another thing. Kodo says Dead Zone versus one page rules. Dead Zone is entry for new people, kids. One page rules is catching those leaving 40k. I think that's a pretty astute point, Kodos. Yeah, I do agree with you, except I think the Dead Zone actually does simply, I think that Dead Zone tends to catch people on the way out too as their majority demographic. Actually, I'm not sure of many people who have gotten into wargaming through Dead Zone, but I'm sure there's people in the chat right now who could tell me otherwise, who'll be able to school me on the fact that they started in it. So let me know, guys, in the chat if you have. Let's see here. Your Lith a Worth, which is a very cool name, says you can see the start of True Scale with the 7th edition Plastic Deathwatch. Okay. Can we all agree that it does not matter what the starter set for 10th edition is, so long as there is no Death Guard in it? Can we all come together, raise our hands and say, no Nurgle, no Nurgle, no Nurgle? Can I get people hyped about that? Because I don't think I can. I think everybody loves Nurgle. I think I'm alone in the wilderness here. But come on, throw me some support. I do not want Nurgle in another box set. Please, 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 please. They're gross, they're icky, they freak me out. I think no. No more bloated stuff. I am having to deal with it in Dark Tide. I do not want to have to deal with it. And a starter set for 10th edition as well. Stephen Connor says, hello there. We are small. We need bigger Marines. I mean, I don't mind the actual scaling of Primaris. My problem with Primaris has been the kind of additional lore and the kind of Rubicon stuff. I think was kind of a little bit, I didn't like the Return of Guilliman. That's all kind of like fluff stuff, right? In terms of the actual miniatures, I always felt like miniatures, they kind of were trying to go towards more of a Call of Duty aesthetic rather than a I am a Gothic Knight kind of aesthetic, which, to be frank, I like the I am a Gothic Knight stuff, which is, I mean, why Horus Heresy has been so popular, I think, because it has re-engaged with that kind of more dark and grim aesthetic. Grim derp. It's been a little bit more grim derp, let's be real. Pirates Space Marines. I'm sold, says Lieutenant Sobol. Pirates Space Marines could be pretty cool. Okay, could be pretty cool. But I mean, like, come on, we got our Dark Eldar for that, right? We got our Dark Eldar for that. It says it took them a few years to nail it. Yeah, I think so too. Nimbletech says, isn't the whole point that they keep it in balance so they continuously say they're rebalancing it by selling more people, more stuff? So in terms of Warhammer 40k, I think that it would be naive to say that they do not fiddle with the balance. I used to be of the opinion that Games Workshop were trying their best. I really was. I really did believe for the longest time, for about 12 years, I thought that Games Workshop were really just trying their best, but that inherently speaking, Warhammer is really difficult to balance, and I think that is true. Warhammer is inherently really difficult to balance. I think that there's a lot of moving parts. It's really hard. On the other hand, though, I think that they pretty much gave the game away whenever they came out with the apology for the Votann, and they said things like, oh, we accidentally balanced this codex against a lot of other really overpowered codices, and the answer is basically the actual business model of Warhammer 40k means that it is impossible to balance, and that is a choice, right? It's not a case of, oh no, we're slaves to the idea that there has to be a codex coming out every couple of months, and so we're really behind. Like, if we're releasing a Votann codex in like a year's time, well, we have to balance it against the current codices that we're coming out with today, and then every single codex that gets released is more powerful than the last one. Like, this is a conscious choice. This isn't by accident. It's not like fate has dictated to them that they have to release the game this way. They are choosing to do so. Now, there's a very, very, very exciting rumor about 10th edition that I'm going to be talking about in my next video. A very exciting rumor. Guys, I'm really excited. So, apparently, 10th edition Warhammer, and this sucks for Imperial Guard players who have just recently purchased their codex. You get like a couple months out of it. Boom, 6 months later, you gotta spend another, like, your codex has been rendered obsolete. I hit the codex system. Okay, but there is a rumor that 10th edition Warhammer during release is gonna have a bunch of indexes, a bunch of indices. We are returning to Index Warhammer. Yes, for those who do not know, Index Warhammer is when they release a new edition of the game, and because they've updated the rules to such an extent that the previous codices don't really function in the new rule system, like say, for example, they get rid of the 2 wound rules, and so strength and toughness are no longer kind of the same, they might be different things. They bring out an index where they update every single army all at the same time. So all the armies are released or updated. They're all in the same playing field. There's no power creep. They're all brought out. They're all designed to interact with one another. They're all designed. It's almost like they've created a playable game experience. And that is absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait for that. If that is true, I'm going to be so hyped for Index Hammer. 8th edition Warhammer. 8th edition Warhammer came out, and because they updated, they streamlined the game at that stage. They updated a lot of the systems. They brought it out, and every single army was released in an index. So all the previous codices were rendered irrelevant. Thanks for giving us your money. And then they bring out the index instead. You got to buy that, and it's like there's no fluff, there's no lore inside this index, but what there is stats. There is the stats of every single army, and they kind of split them down thematically. There was like the Imperium, I think, there was Chaos, there was Aliens, Xenos. And that's how they did it. And if they do that again, I'm really excited. Except for the fact that they just sold a codex for Imperial Guard like 5 or 6 months before they start selling this index. And rendering all that obsolete. But that, again, speaks to the absolute of the codex system that literally it fries my brain in anger sometimes when I think about the codex system. But that is like super duper, like that is exciting to me. That, like, I am excited by that. That is a shakeup of the game that I would really look forward to, because if anyone who was around in 8th edition knows, there was like a period of time there where it was really fun, and then what happened? They started releasing codices again. They were like, yep, can't have a month where we're not making a shit ton of money. Let's continue to release codices. And that's what they did. They began to release codices once again, and the balance went screwy. Space Marines came out. They were really powerful. They had their own codex. And then, the classic codex creep where we keep going until we get to the very end. And then Space Marines suck. And everybody else is, the last codex that came out was incredible. And then we went into 9th edition, and we all know how that went. It did not go very well. So if we go to see Index Hammer again, I'm actually really excited by that. I really am. Let's see here. Yeah, Silver Bayonet, says George. Yeah, I know, right? Silver Bayonet. I'm really excited to play it. I really am. For those who don't know, this is a Napoleonic horror skirmish game created by Joe McCullough, who is also the creator of like Frostgrave and Rangers of the Shadow Deep and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to play that. Let's see. The Duke says, if they don't do that, I don't care what they do. Monty Pond Snifferson says, I hate command points on those cards. Like having to keep track of a Magic the Gathering-esque deck and play a miniature game is just too much. So I've played a game like Batman the Miniatures game, which is an extremely complicated game. It has a lot of stuff going on. And I've played that. And I think that you can play a game. So I play with stratagems. You can play with them. I think that the stratagem system in general is not a bad idea, but I think that the actual implementation of stratagems was poor. I think that replacing universal special rules with stratagems was really bad. I honestly think that if each army, each faction had like a much more limited, more general kind of power, deck of cards that was like 12 cards or something, and it was like no fear. Space Marines can you play the card and you get to re-roll your fear, your morale checks, right? Stuff like that. I think that could be really cool. That adds a lot of flavor to the game. I think that will be really neat. Drake Russell, thank you very much for the $5 donation. I really appreciate it. It helps keep the lights on here in the I was gonna say the studio. It's my fucking living room. Got like 2 Amazon lights and like a camera wobbling to one side. Thank you very much for the donation there, Drake. I will be at Adepticon with 3 Ghost Keels and Riptide. Cannot wait to hunt tanks and Marines with my battlesuit only list. The battlesuit only list. That is a nasty business there, Drake. That is a nasty business. I've been running in fear of battlesuits for a really long time in my life. Although that said, I've always loved the look of the Fire Warriors. I've actually always been a big fan of the Fire Warriors look for the tie. So if I ever collect a tie, which I kind of did for like a little brief moment, little second, you all see my pile shame. For a little hot second, I did collect them, and I did have a couple of battlesuits. I wish you well. I wish you luck. You have discourses like whenever somebody's gambling, in James Bond, and they're like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna the lady comes over from the side and kisses the card. That's me for your battlesuit. That's what I'll do. I'll give you luck that way. Here we are. It's like you're in a gambling casino. You get that from me. Good luck, and thank you very much for the donation. Saito says, okay, I count down. If they give me custom warbands on the Chaos Space Marine Codex, I will play a Renegade chapter. That sounds really cool to me. I mean, like, look, I'm playing. I'm building a Black Templar chapter Space Marine list, right? That's kind of a successor chapter. Kind of doesn't know who they come from, but they're using the Black Templar rules. And I'm just like making stuff up, guys. This is the glory of the Warhammer 40k setting. It is a sandbox to me. You can take any elements, you can play around with them, and then you can just fit the mechanics around that. You know, you can kind of if anyone here has ever played Dungeons and Dragons and they're like, I'm gonna play, you know, this race or this class that doesn't exist, I'm just gonna take an existing class or race and then I'm just gonna re-theme the mechanics that they get. You could do that. That's no problem. It's the easiest way to get, like, you know, like your kind of convoluted like anime character into a game. You can do that with 40k as well. Your Lith Worth says, in my opinion, fun comes before anything else. I remember how underpowered 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle Southlands variant army list as a pure Skinks army. It was absolutely fun, even if one lost. It was worth it. I don't know about that. So I prefer it whenever an army is both fun and like strong and competent and able to kind of like fight against the opponent. I think that that's really important. So I like games that allow me to pick things that maybe that sound fun and then do okay with them, or that they have like an established play style for sure. I prefer it that way. I understand the argument that, like, you know, if you're picking out, you know, I've gone for all plasma guns, even if that's not good, even though that sounds incredible. But like in a magical world where plasma guns suck and you're like, I really like the vibe of plasma guns, I'm gonna go all plasma guns, and then you lose every single game, that starts to wear down on you, even as a narrative player, which I tend to be. I tend to be a player. I like to like kind of play as if I'm my general and I make decisions. I kind of do bad things. I kind of do dumb things sometimes. Yeah, I'm role-playing, guys, for real. That's not me. I didn't make that decision. But I like it if my stuff, even if it's just narrative-based, is also competent. It is also, I can contend, at the very least. I can contend and fight my way through it. You love the death card. Oh, no. Crypto Kev, a member for 1 month. Thank you very much for your membership. Crypto Kev says, hit the like button, peeps. Oh, thank you very much for the rally, the call to action as well. The house always wins, says Duke Javelin. I mean, look, yes, that is the case 100%. These institutions will always grind us down. It is up for us as people to rally up against it. Lizzie Mini Painting says, pay to win card booster. That sounds like a GW sales strategy. Well, in fairness to them, I was going to say, actually, in fairness to them, that they don't sell booster packs for stratagems, but they sort of do upgrade their stratagem decks by selling new supplement books. You know, for example, they'll sell like a new chapter of Space Marines, and that new chapter of Space Marines will just be better than the core Space Marine chapter, which is kind of, on the one hand, a result of their business model, where they sell codices over time, and then each codex gets more powerful than the last. But it does kind of act that way. I would, honestly, I could see Games Workshop selling booster packs for like if they actually did do if they did do a system where you had cards for your factions, you know, and you were like, okay, let's see, I can do X, Y, and Z. If that was like a thing, I think that Games Workshop could, like, I could see them selling booster packs, but I don't think it would be guaranteed. I think they would be more the kind of person, like more the kind of company that would sell like 30 cards for £500, right? Like they would do like £60 card packs where it's like, get all the cards. I think more so, rather than like selling booster packs. Amu says, Hasbro has been making more money from cards. I can see GW being jealous. I mean, GW, I think, are pretty happy with the product that they sell. I mean, they sell like very, very cheap plastic that's been very cheaply made for extremely expensive amounts of money. I don't think that they're, I mean, like, you know, this is something actually people don't know. A card is more expensive to produce than a plastic miniature. One of these plastic miniatures is cheaper to produce than a card, or at least very much a magic card. In any case, magic cards are more expensive per card than a single miniature is, but for some reason we all think that the plastic miniature is more expensive to produce. Pixie says, Discord is going to smooch hard those battle suits with tongues and everything. That's how you get extra luck. No, you're gonna have to donate, I think, quite a bit more for that. Okay, so we've done 40k. 40k for that. All right, we've done 40k. What about Horus Heresy? I think Horus Heresy is very easy. I think we're going to see more plastic tanks. I don't think that's going to be that exciting. I think we're going to see more plastic tanks for Horus Heresy. Age of Sigmar is interesting because I'm totally out of the loop with Age of Sigmar. I'll be honest. The last thing I remember happening to Age of Sigmar was I had to buy a White Dwarf in order to get a Beastman update. Yeah, and then I haven't really, I kind of was a bit like, oh, this kind of sucks. And now I know the Beastmen have since then gotten a Battle Tome update, and I know that since then, there have been all sorts of sexy things. Like I heard the Hate Knights of Sinesh, they seem to have like a pretty fun, they seem to have like a pretty fun update in their Battle Tome. For sure. That looked kind of interesting. Drake Russell, thank you very much for the donation again. Thank you very much. $5 donation says 3 Keels, 1 Riptide, 6 Crisis with Shields, Tau, Plasma, and Cyclics, 2 Commanders, 3 Stealth, 2 Real Sides, and Drones, of course. Plus Borkan Sept. That sounds really awesome. It sounds really awesome. So is Adepticon really big in terms of gaming? So I've never been... Okay. I've been talking about Adepticon, guys. Like, I'm this old hand at it. I'm like... Adepticon, y'all know what's up, but I actually have never been to Adepticon personally, so I'm not 100% sure like how big the gaming proportion is. Like I've watched like other YouTubers and stuff like that go to Adepticon and like show me footage and things and like see releases, you know, but I've never actually been to Adepticon. I don't know how big the kind of like gaming component is. Is it really big there, Drake? Is it like really big? That sounds like an interesting list though, by the way. Did they ever, because I never actually caught this, because I haven't been reading like the updates. Okay. Here is my real for real actual deep dark secret. It's not only that I haven't played Space Hulk. I frequently play just with the codex. When I play 40k, I frequently just use the book. If I've got the book, I'll use it. Otherwise, I'll use Wahapedia. Yeah, because I do play Warhammer sometimes without the books because I just use Wahapedia. So, did they ever update those crazy vehicles that could, like, one-shot? I haven't played against Tau in this edition, so I don't know if they can, like, one-shot stuff still. But good luck to you. Good luck. Rushdown Warseer says, hopefully start on some infantry. Culture says, what? A mini is cheaper than a literally laminated piece of paper. Yeah, so whenever you look at like a Magic the Gathering card, it's actually a lot of stuff that goes on in the background of that, like the art and stuff like that. But yeah, to create the cards, the card stock is more expensive than plastic. Like, so the actual, no, I think that some of the costs have gone up, but whenever we talk about the cost going up, we mean like an almost like very, very small amount. A very, very small amount. Your Lith Worth says, what about the old world? There was a recent Warcom update regarding the new plastic Bretonian kits. I'm much more hyped for the whole world since hearing that there was plastic Bretonian kits. I was really worried that a lot of the old world stuff was going to be resin, unless Games Workshop are doing a fooling me trick, okay? Unless Games Workshop have explicitly decided to make the starter set for Warhammer Fantasy come out and be all plastic, and then the rest of the range be resin. So they're gonna come out with this big starter set for Warhammer Fantasy battles, and it's gonna be Bretonia versus Tomb Kings, which would not be an unthematic choice. Bretonia often go on crusades into Araby, and who are on the borderlands of Araby? The Tomb Kings. Bretonians will frequently clash with Tomb Kings. So you could very easily do a starter set for Warhammer Fantasy that is Bretonia versus Tomb Kings in the land of the dead. And that would be super hype, and they could do a big plastic starter set the way they did with Horus Heresy, make it really value, you know, give like, for Warhammer, again, always for Warhammer, but make it a pretty cost-effective starter set. And then for the rest of the Warhammer Fantasy stuff, be like, but now you gotta buy from Forge World. And I'm worried if that's the case, what we'll see is a ton of people buy the starter set and then just abandon the game in droves. And I would be really worried about that. I would be really worried about that. Because I like Warhammer Fantasy. I kind of want Warhammer Fantasy to do well. I'm like a big fan of the setting. Just yesterday I played some Warhammer Fantasy RPG. I always random roll my characters in a Warhammer Fantasy RPG. I've always done so. I've never played anything about a human because if you roll a 1 to 95 whenever you're creating your character, you get to play a human. And for my character I rolled a 100, which meant now I am a wood elf in Warhammer RPG, and is absolutely weird. It's really weird. I literally did a video recently on my Dungeons and Discourse, which is my RPG channel, basically saying about how I think that elves were a mistake. Now I'm playing as one. Oh, it's like body horror, guys. Bretonia from Forge World. I'm not paying $50 per night, says Crypto Kev. So they're doing plastic models, which admittedly means that they're not going to be like super duper cheap, but you know, more affordable than resin models. Like if you ever look at the resin prices from Forge World, like I can't buy them. Like if Warhammer Fantasy Battles is just Forge World resin, I can't afford it. I can't play this game. I can't afford it. Like, this may look like there's a lot of glitz and glamour. You guys might think that I'm actually reporting from the back of a space station. I'm afraid to say that there's not like a ton of money in this whole thing. And I cannot afford to pay a Forge World prices. I can't afford it. I can barely afford plastic prices from Games Workshop. This is why I don't buy the big box sets. I can't afford them. The same goes true for Forge World. I can't buy. I have a Snotlane army for Blood Bowl, and I want to own a one of the star players. What have I not bought? A single star player, because the star players are all from Forge World and they're all resin and they're extremely expensive. Like, it's wild. So if Warhammer Fantasy Battles goes into Forge World and is resin only, that is a game that requires a lot of miniatures. It requires a lot of food infantry. It requires big, massive blocks of infantry. They need to be cheap. This game will die if it's not affordable. There are people out there, loads of people who want to play Warhammer Fantasy Battles, especially people who've come into the hobby, into the wargaming hobby through Creative Assembly's Total War Warhammer game. And this is a group of people, and I am not disparaging. I think wargamers should be a lot more like this. I think we should be a lot more savvy when it comes to consumerism in wargaming. However, the new Chaos Dwarfs DLC for Warhammer Total War Fantasy Battles has come out, and it is more expensive than previous DLC, I believe. And what's happening? People are calling for boycott. People are upset. People are annoyed. There has been a price rise, and there has not been any, discernible increase in quality of the product. People are like, no, this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable, and they're fighting against it. That's the type of people we're dealing with. They're buying an entire race, an entire faction for like $10. They're not going to want to pay $25 for a single miniature. And I think that if that is the kind of plan the Games Workshop have when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy Battles, oh yeah, you want to buy a Bretonian single mini? Well, I'm afraid to say it's going to be $30. People are going to say no. People are not going to buy into that. It's not going to be affordable for the vast majority of people in the marketplace. And that really sucks, because what I would love to see is a lot of the people who play video games of Warhammer stuff get converted into the wargaming side of Warhammer stuff. And then hopefully later on down the line get into general wargaming. And I think that would be really cool. I'd be really hyped for that. But unfortunately, it does not seem to be the case that Games Workshop look at it from the same perspective. I think that I'm really worried, because I can see a future where there is an affordable box set, right? An affordable box set. And by affordable, what I mean is an expensive product for most people. Like £150, $200 is extremely expensive. But people can justify that the way they can justify a console expenditure. Because they say, this is the beginning. I can then modularize this. I'm going to be able to buy like 20 guys for like £20 later on, or for like $30 I can buy 20 guys, and then I'm going to be able to build like a pretty good army. And that's not going to be the way it is. If it's going to be on Forge World, it's going to be like 20 guys for $60, and no one will pay that. No one will pay the price of an entire video game for 20 guys who only add, like, if it's Bretonian peasants, not a lot of points to your army. Thank you very much for the donation there, Scython. I really appreciate it. It says, in my 1998 Bretonia Codex, Wood Elves are boogeyman. Normal humans never get out alive of a situation where they see a Wood Elf worse with Dryads. That is how I am playing my Wood Elf whenever I'm playing in Warhammer Fantasy RPG. I'm playing my Wood Elf as a bit, oh god, what's the word for it? A bit mysterious, a bit weird. I don't really speak Reichsspiel, so I'm talking in kind of like a broken kind of dialect where I can only really gesture at things and kind of say one-word sentences. And I'm also being really weird and being really annoyed whenever people try to do things like keep pets. Like, why aren't they hunting them? It doesn't make any sense. I don't like the idea of people. One of the other players has a bunch of chickens, and he's using it to create eggs because he's a chef. So he's trying to create stuff, and I'm constantly trying to kill those chickens. So yeah, that's the life of a Wood Elf. I totally agree with you. I really love the idea of the Wood Elves being kind of like, almost, they're hostile to humans, right? I thought that Vermintide 2 did it really well with Carillion. Carillion was a very, like, almost overtly hostile person to the Empire figures. I thought that was kind of fun. 3D Printer goes brrrr, says YBFC311. It does indeed. But, you can't expect people you can't expect people to buy a 3D printer, I think. Especially not for what is really a mainstream game like Warhammer. Warhammer is a very mainstream game. It is pretty much like the very first war game that most people will engage with. And I think that that might be true of Warhammer Fantasy Battles coming up soon, because so many people have played the game, the video game, Total War Warhammer Fantasy, that they're going to then be like, oh, this is the actual physical game. It's come back after, like, for some people, I bet they'll be like, after like an infinity amount of time that it's been gone, like 10 years, and now it's back. This is my opportunity to get into the game, and then they're going to get into it, maybe buy the box set, be like, whoa, I just paid the price of a console there. That was very expensive. But now I've bought that, at least I've got a really good foundation. I can buy like a bunch of my other guys and then be done. And Games Workshop are like $60, please, for 10 guys. And they're going to be like, what the Games Workshop? There is no way I can do this. Right? Like, that's a major problem Wargaming has, I think. It really does. Affordable box set, $450, says Derek Henderson. This is the problem. This is the problem. Like, $450 is an insane pricing. Is insane pricing. Kuda says, not only a single model price, but all successful RNF games, rank and flank games have rules to use less models per unit to make it easy and cheaper. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you look at, I don't have it to hand. I can't, like, make it pull up, because I really love doing that when I, like, show the product. But if you look at A Song of Ice and Fire, for example, they sell a starter set that comes with basically an entire army for $100. I got it for £50, which is like $70, because I got it on a discount. But you can get the Song of Ice and Fire starter set for almost like $100. And it's done. You're basically done. You get everything you need. You get your heroes, you get your troops, you get the rule book, you get terrain, you get everything. Now the terrain is 2D. You get all of the counters, you get everything. It is the starter set, gives you almost an entire army. You buy like the Lannister one if you want to be, well, that's a bad example. You buy the like the Baratheon starter set, you get the Baratheon army. You buy, and there is like other stuff you can buy, you know. You get like 2 infantry, you usually get like an army that's kind of like coherent with itself. But there's other stuff you can buy, like knights if you want, like as an extra thing. Like, it's still a war game, you can still buy other stuff, but you get basically everything you need to go. Now, I think your one unit, you have to buy one more unit extra on top if you want to get to like the equivalent of 2,000 points. But I mean, you're getting like 1,800 points for $100. And that is, honest to God, honestly, that is closer to the price point that I would love to see from like a Warhammer starter set. It really is. And I would love it also to be almost a complete experience out of the box. On this channel, if you're new here, I absolutely love accessible products that are easy to pick up. I love closed box experience. And what I mean by that is you get everything in the box that you need. So if you look at the Carnivale starter set, for example, this is my go-to all the time. You get 2 crews, you get 2 entire gangs. Done and dusted. They are balanced against one another. You're finished. You have a guild gang and you have a Rashard gang. Bada bing, bada boom. You also get a bunch of terrain, and you get a bunch of canals as well. You get everything you need. You get the rulebook, you get all the tokens, you get dice. You get dice, and you get like a ruler as well, I believe. Done. Everything in the box, and it's like $70, £60 over. Sure, you could go out, you can buy there's other factions to buy, there's other stuff to buy, but that is it. And that is what I would love to see from a Games Workshop box set. I really would. They do it for like some of their box game experiences. You remember some of the older Necromunda box sets, but those box sets are incredibly expensive in order to buy them as like a complete experience, and then more than likely there'll be new stuff to buy. Halfling army, let's go, says Proof Michael. Yeah, okay, Halfling army, pretty sick. All right. Kuda says, Nibbletek says, please breathe in before you pass out. I cannot breathe. Duke Devlin says, insane. Aranath Alicante says, if the old world comes back, Mantic will sell a lot, specific with the quality of their new plastic sprues. Yeah, so Mantic have this thing where their plastic stuff is affordable. It's pretty well priced. Their bundles tend to be pretty well priced. Their older stuff kind of isn't that great, but their newer stuff is good. And then they have these resin things, which tend to be very expensive and not very good deals. So yeah, I think that their like line infantry and stuff will be really good, for sure. I was going to use, oh god, I can't remember, Oathmark. I was going to use the halflings for Oathmark. I thought that was going to be a lot of fun. Capo Kennard says, I'm already in that position with 40k boarding actions, £130 just for the walls. For the terrain, nah, pass the Lego. Yeah, I mean, like, look, I have, for my entire life, ever since I played the first kill team in the 2000s, where one person was playing as like a bunch of random patrolling sentries, and the other person was playing like a kill team who had to sneak past and like kill them like Rambo style and get to the objectives. Ever since we played that, I have been asking for since that time for a smaller scale version of Warhammer. Like a combat patrol style game, but actually designed to be played that way, where you basically take like 200 points or 300 points, and you go up against somebody else's like 200, 300 points. And you can do it Warhammer, obviously, but it kind of falls apart as a game. It's not very well balanced. I've always wanted to play something like that. And whenever they announced the Ark of Omen's boarding patrol stuff, I was like, oh my god, this could be it. This could be like the moment. This could be like the small scale Warhammer that I have been asking for. Not kill team level, like a little bit bigger than that, but like still sort of, it's still a game of Warhammer 40k, but it's like a lot smaller and it's kind of designed to be like that. And then they also announced the terrain and the fact that it would be like a different part of like the spaceship. Every single, oh my god, I was like, no, this isn't affordable. The whole point of that game is that like people who are on the fence, right? The person who comes into the store of a Games Workshop store and says, I would love to play Warhammer. I've heard all about this Warhammer thing. It sounds really cool. Or maybe they go to Adepticon and they like, I would love to play this Warhammer thing. How do I get started? And the Games Workshop store owner has to say, well, you can buy this massive starter set, or you can, spend like $3,000 on 500 Space Marines. I do not recommend it. Personally, having bought an army against my better judgment, an unaffordably expensive one, I do not recommend buying 2,000 points worth of Space Marines, just all at once. But that's what they're kind of confronted with. It's a really hard sale. You see a lot of people get sticker price shock and they go, no thanks. And a lot of people don't want that massive experience either. Whereas if you did something like a boarding patrol thing, but you actually just made it like 2 full armies consisting of like a couple of squads and like a guy and maybe a bigger dude, that's like such an easier to sell experience. Plus people can try out multiple armies. People can like buy a small force of Space Marines. They can buy a small force of Imperial Guard. They can buy a small force of Chaos. There's lots of people out there who aren't just in love with a single army. They're in love with like multiple armies. But of course Games Workshop wants you to buy multiple 2,000 points armies. They don't want you to buy multiple like affordable armies, you know? That's like a big problem. It really frustrates me. Let's see. Cleo says, I'm Mod Podge and Primarine XPS foam terrain today. I might be whiffy on the fumes. Yeah. So I've been trying to put together a ton of MDF terrain. Obviously, very recently, if you guys haven't seen it, very recently I built 2,000 Space Marines over I think it was a 30, well, there was a lot of hours. I think it was 31, 32, 33 hours. And there was a lot of glue going around. Which kind of is fun because I come from a very kind of a background where glue sniffing is not an unknown occurrence. And I kind of saw the appeal. I found the appeal out today, or the other day. That was pretty nasty, by the way, that Space Marine build. I'm still trying to get my sleeping schedule sorted out. In fact, it might actually have come a little bit in handy because Adepticon happens at 3 a.m. my time. And I'm thinking, you guys let me know if you'd be interested. I'm thinking about maybe streaming it live at 3 a.m. like a fucking nutcase. But I don't know if that's something that people would actually be interested in. William Bond says, that's why I like 1PH Rules Grimdark Firefight. They have a point-based list system, and you can take much more options than you can take in Kill Team. You can take bikers, small flyers, even super heavy infantry. Yeah, it's interesting. For sure. So Warhammer Fantasy is like a game. I don't even know if we're going to see anything about it during this reveal session. If we do, then I'm starting to wonder what the hell is going to be at Warhammer Fest. If they show off Warhammer Fantasy, if they show off Warhammer 40k, if they do like a new army or like a new update for some of the armies at Age of Sigmar, what the hell's at Warhammer Fest? Like, what's going on there, you know? I mean, I bought tickets to Warhammer Fest. I didn't want to. It cost me like $1,000. But I bought tickets to Warhammer Fest, and it was a massive mistake, I think. But we'll see whether not something exciting gets. And obviously, as always, I will be, I'll be reporting on it back to you guys. I'll be making content, if there is something of interest there. But geez, okay. Okay. So that's Horus Heresy. Probably some new plastic tanks. That's Age of Sigmar. That's Warhammer Fantasy. What about Kill Team? What are we going to see for Kill Team? I think that we're probably going to see either that Space Hulk box that we mentioned before, or we're going to see the next Into the Dark box, which might just be a Space Hulk themed thing. It could be Tyranids versus Terminators. I mean, why not, right? It could be Primaris Terminators. Which would be fine, because the Terminators right now, they look a little bit silly when put beside the Primaris. Personally, I'd like to see Genestealer cults be put into a Kill Team box, I guess, because I really like Genestealer cults, and I think they look awesome, and I think they are totally underrated as a faction, and nobody loves them, and they're my little boys, and I wanna see them, you know, thrive and do well, because Workers of the World unite, Genestealer cultists, you know, like I love these guys, but I suspect that we could see that. I suspect that we could see that for sure. I think that's like probably pretty much a slam dunk. Your left Awerth just said something very bizarre to me. He just said, or they just said, Rick Priestley's new war game is a skirmish game too, beyond the Gates of Antares. Whoo! Gates of Antares. Wow, okay. I really like some of the game mechanics in Gates of Antares, but the setting did not ever really quite grip me. It really didn't. Mark Maxey says, ever going to attend Adepticon? I wish. I would dream. If this channel was successful, then we would be able to go to Adepticon. I would absolutely adore it. I would love to go to Adepticon, but Adepticon is like an extremely expensive proposition for me. I have to like get flights to America. I live in Ireland, so it's the kind of trip that the Titanic sinks during, you know what I mean? Like it's a big journey. I wouldn't be able to make it. So it's a very expensive trip, and then like I've heard that getting even tickets to the thing is like almost impossible. I've heard that like hotels are like, so yeah, it's like way above my budget right now. How do you prime your MDF terrain? So many opinions on a script, okay? Badly is the answer. I just keep spraying it over and over and over again. But I think that you're meant to varnish it first, and then you spray it with terrain. Richard P says, 3 a.m. UK time? I'll be honest, nah. Yeah, it's very late, isn't it? It's very, very late. But my sleeping schedule, like that Space Marine video that I did where I built those armies, like that has screwed me up. Like that has fundamentally screwed up my sleeping schedule pretty substantially. Like it really, really messed it up. Because beforehand, I was trying to stay up a bit longer and stuff at night to try and like get myself prepared. It was just an absolute mess, so I could probably stay up now. Like that video was not worth it. It did not get very many views, and it was a lot of money to buy all the Space Marines, and now my sleeping schedule is screwed up. Ooh, not worth it at all. Let's see. Wizard MF says maybe actual 10th edition games of Warhammer Fest with trailer drop at Adepticon. Maybe so, Wizard MF. But like, if I don't bring my Space Marines, which I'm not going to do, to Warhammer Fest, like if I don't bring any Warhammer stuff, like, am I gonna get to be able to play it? Probably not, because the guys at the who work for Games Workshop will probably be like, no, not you. You get out. But we turned away at the door. I got a little something up my sleeve for Warhammer Fest though. I got some foolishness that I'm planning whenever I'm at Warhammer Fest. I got some tricks up my sleeve. It's not gonna be just me being like negative Nelly. I'm gonna be getting pretty excited. There's also some content creators I'm looking forward to meeting as well. Con travel is such a pain these days. I stopped going years ago, says the Duke. I'd never been before UKG, and I was like super excited. I really loved it. I really loved it. I love it. Like I absolutely adore conventions. I really do. What day is Adepticon, says Culture Nerd? I think it's on Thursday for me. I think it's Thursday 3 a.m. but for other people it might be like Wednesday. You know, it's just time zones, fully blue dealio. It like lasts over. It's not just like the one day either. It's like there's a bunch of different days. But I think the Warhammer 40k, I don't know which day specifically that's on. I think that might be the first day, in which case I might have to stay up. Oh, and then it's like the entire week too. Yeah, okay. Valorant says, greetings, been loving your videos on both Dungeons and Miniatures. That's really cool to hear. Thank you so much, Valorant. That fills me with joy. So generally, day to day, I tend to get a lot of criticism. We'll be really diplomatic. We'll say I get a lot of criticism, so it's really nice to hear when people actually enjoy the content, for sure. Because that's what I do it for. I create the content that I want to create because I think that it has value to people out there. So I'm really glad to hear that you're enjoying it, both on the Dungeons and Discourse channel where I cover RPGs, and also on Discourse Minis where I cover miniature wargaming. So thank you so much. I'm really happy to hear that. Oh, Dr. Mantis Toboggan is in the chat here. It says MDF can be painted on, but it might warp with no primer due to water-based paints. Thank you very much. I mean, Mantis Toboggan is a pretty well-regarded doctor with a lot of accolades to his name, so I would trust what he says for sure. Not an untrustworthy character at all. Critica says, if a free Godfather donated $10,000 for you to go to Adepticon, what would you film? What would I film, CryptoKev, to go to Adepticon? Wow. So I think that the thing that I would probably film at Adepticon, it's really hard to say without thinking about it, right? Like, just off the cuff of my head. Because the thing about Adepticon is that there's so much going on. Like, it's actually such an experience. Like, Adepticon is crazy in terms of its size. I was recently talking to Uncle Adam about Adepticon. And it's such a massive, like, event. Like, everything is going on there. Like, every single hobby company is there. Like, every single one. And I think one of the problems that we sometimes have with Adepticon is that and I'm guilty of doing it right now, right, with this stream title, is that we often focus on a few of the actual companies, like Games Workshop, right? And we just cover that. But, like, if I were to go to Adepticon, in my opinion, Games Workshop get a lot of coverage. I would probably obviously talk about Games Workshop stuff, but I think that if I could, what my hope would be to cover the games. I think this would be really exciting. We're to cover the games that I think are going to be massive. You know, the game, like the next Joe McCullough. Like, I would love to go around and try and find a lot of the hidden gems that people are kind of sleeping on. And I think that I think that would be a real quest. I think that would be like a real trial. That would be tough because there's just so much there. But I think I did a little bit to some extent with the UKG. I didn't record a lot of stuff at the UKG last year. Hopefully Remedy this year. But I'm hoping to maybe do the same with UKG. And I'd love to do that at Adepticon because Adepticon is like times 100, you know? It's like times 1,000. That would be super exciting. Because to be frank, I think a lot of little guys need the help. I really do. I think a lot of the little guys need the help. Lizzie VDP says, I'm not paying to go to the GMAX or whatever. I'll be in Fanboy 3. Oh god, Fanboy 3. What is that? Alex Neal says, polytherin varnish is probably the cheapest way to seal MDF. You can use it for loads of other things as well. That's what I heard. I heard you meant to varnish it, but I'm just bad, you know. RPG channel, these were Delta Green, says Crypto Kev. I haven't played enough of Delta Green to talk about it. I played a lot of Call of Cthulhu, and I've recommended Call of Cthulhu on the Dungeons and Discourse channel, but I would love to play more Delta Green. So far, I have run a single scenario from Delta Green, and I'm not sure it was the best, like, I didn't get like the best like idea of the system from it. I'd love to run it either the same scenario or a bunch of different scenarios again, and then maybe I'll be able to talk about Delta Green. But I hope to do so. I do not have a I want to believe poster sitting as the very first thing that you see whenever you walk into my house for no reason. Like, I love all that aliens and things like that, and like all the Delta Green like conspiracy theories and stuff. Mr. Incompetent Gamer says, managed to pick up the old fastest Star Trek RPG. Hit me right in nostalgia. One of the first RPGs ever played. I've never played any of the fastest stuff. Fanboy 3 is an FLGS in Manchester. Guys, I think I actually have been there. I think I might have been to Fanboy 3. Because on my way to UKGE, I came back, and there was like a bit of time between my flight from Manchester back to Belfast, and so I actually wandered around and I went into a game store that was a pretty big game store, and it wasn't too far away from the train station. I wonder if that was it. You food-barred it up, says Kurt the Cat. I did not screw up the Delta Green game. I did not screw it up. It's just I need to play it some more for sure. Warhammer so Carl Chaos with the Carl Chaos here, the kind of comic book supervillain comes in with the comic book supervillain kind of take, saying Warhammer should just make like the dinosaurs and bury itself. I don't know if that's fair. Like, I think I get unfairly painted as some sort of hater of Warhammer. What I detest is bad business practices. What I detest is anti-consumer practices. What I detest are whenever I see my friends get priced out of the hobby. What I detest is when I see people look at wanting to play Warhammer and then they go, no, sorry, I can't afford that. That's the sort of stuff I hate. I hate it whenever barriers to entry start getting raised so that people can't play the game, because I worry about the long-term health of the hobby that I absolutely love. I don't want to kill Warhammer. You know, like, I just think that it could be probably a little bit cheaper. And I think that if we were to pull together as like a consumer base more, the way that the D&D community did and the RPG community generally, I think that we'd be able to get a better deal for ourselves. And that's what I'm here to try and do. I'm trying to create a little bit of a consciousness around around wargamers and try to get us to all think of ourselves as wargamers so that we can fight against the oppressive corporate actors like Games Workshop, because ultimately at the end of the day, like I too, I'm a wargamer. I don't get anything from Games Workshop because they would have me sign an NDA, which meant that my opinions would be compromised. Way too much money for what is supposed to be a game, says Carl Chaos. Yeah, so I agree with you on the pricing thing, but I don't think it should be buried. I like Warhammer. Like, I like the setting of Warhammer. I've got lots of miniatures. I have a lot of good memories of Warhammer. I like Warhammer. I just want it to be better. You know, and that is how I've always approached things. Traveling Man isn't far away from Fanboy 3. It's just a lot smaller, says Lady Mini Painting. It could have been Traveling Man then. It could have been Traveling Man. It has in the basement, that's where they were playing games, and then the upstairs had like a big section for like RPGs and a big section for like war games and stuff like that. I think that actually might have been where I bought Rangers of Shadow Deep, or did I buy that at UKG itself proper? I can't remember. Kudo says this, I chance you would go to the Clash of Kings of War tournament in Nottingham. Getting over to Nottingham is a really, really, really difficult proposition because getting a flight and then hotel stay is just expensive. Like, you're talking like hundreds of pounds, and like it is true. This thing, like this content, I do content creation full time. I do content creation full time, and what that means is that I don't make a ton of cash from this, which means that I don't have a lot of like disposable income, because whenever I do get disposable income, like say from my patrons and things like that, what happens is that money goes towards things like a second camera that hopefully you will start to see more impact from on the channel, or it comes to a desk where I can actually do hobby stuff on a camera, or it comes into a new microphone as well, which I'm hoping to kind of pick up soon. So there's kind of like things like that. So whenever I would love to cover these sorts of events and tournaments, unfortunately I can't do that unless a company is willing to like send me over, like they did with the Creator Clash for God tier, for example. So yeah, unfortunately I don't know if I would be able to. It's just a very expensive proposition for me to get. Unfortunately, there's this like moat, there's this sliver of water between Ireland and England, and it really makes things a lot more difficult. It really does. Because even if I lived in England, what would be awesome would be, what I would love to do is to like go down to an event and then cover the thing and then drive home. I can't drive, but you know, in theory, I would learn to drive if I lived in England. So that would be really awesome. Unfortunately, I can't. I would love to do more stuff like that. I really would love to do more stuff like that. Cleo, thank you very much for the donation for $5 there. Says, I enjoyed Discourse time both for the jolt of energy, so I don't feel so alone in spending so much time on minis. Oh god. Yeah, so I spent an ungodly amount of time on these little guys. I really do spend an ungodly amount of time on these little guys. Never feel bad about how much time you spend on your hobby, for real. To be perfectly frank, as somebody who has worked a lot, as somebody who spent a lot of time working, you need it. Like, personally, for me, wargaming got me through a lot of hard times in my life, and it has been a constant for me throughout my last 20 years as a really lovely, I call it an anchor. It's an anchor on the world, and I absolutely adore it. I absolutely love wargaming. It's one of the most foundational things. I absolutely, positively love it. I don't think you can spend enough time on the things that give you joy. I think if it gives you joy, do it. You know. So yeah, wargaming, absolutely fantastic. Never feel bad about how much time you spend on it, because quite frankly, it is an absolutely fantastic creative hobby that gives back. It gives back. I used to spend a lot more time playing video games, and honestly, like, looking back on those times, I kind of wish I spent it more hobbying more with wargaming, because maybe I wouldn't have such a big massive pile of unbuilt sprues in that room, right? Like, so I absolutely adore wargaming, and I have never I'd say this much, I sometimes look back on gaming and I'm like, why did I spend so much goddamn time playing Smite? Right? That game, all it did was take, and I never really, and I like 5 years later, I'm like, what the hell do I have to show for that? But with wargaming, I come back, and the same with RPGs as well. These creative hobbies, I have stories. I remember those stories. I can look back on them. I have things that are special to me, that are unique to me. I have art. essentially coming from it. I have something creative, and I absolutely adore that. I think that is something. It's why I love to proselytize for like wargaming and for RPGs, because I feel like they give something a little bit more transcendent than a lot of other consumer hobbies. Like, for example, like watching TV and things like that. You know, like I love movies, but it's definitely a lot more passive, and I try to do that whenever I'm like a little bit zoned out. But like, there is something to be said for the creativity that is inherent in things like wargaming and RPGs for sure. And like, I gotta be real, guys. I gotta be real. I'm not very good at painting, and I could never ever like do something like paint a portrait. I'm just not good at that. But I can build miniatures, and I can paint miniatures. I think most people can as well. They might not be amazing at it, which is kind of a problem, because I think that the whole like Instagram influencer thing has kind of raised the bar and like paint jobs and stuff, and I think that's actually kind of a big problem in the hobby. But they might not be great. That's why I'm trying to always bring up the fact that I suck at painting, because I think it's important that you know, not everything like online is like, you must be incredible at this. I absolutely love it. I think it's a really great font for creativity, and I'm really happy about these programs that get kids, for example, into wargaming. I think that's really important. I think it is really important. Although I kind of wish the Games Workshop wouldn't make it so primarily. They have like this Warhammer thing for kids where they'll go into schools and they'll try to get kids into Warhammer, and I like that. But on the other hand, my problem with the Warhammer is that they get ensnared into Warhammer, and they think that all their creativity has to get funneled into this one brand. But I like it as a hobby, and it's why I actually kind of really resist and resent the idea of one single company trying to lock down hobbies like this, is because I think that they are so much more transcendent than something that is just simply marketable, right? It's not a brand. Like I think our brand is so gauche and so of mortal coil, whereas whenever we're talking about minis, I think they're special. I really do. So thank you very much. You blew it on Black Templar, says Crypto Cav. Thank you very much for the donation there, Cleo. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Mr. Company Given says, I play numerous games and can always collect a few armies for each 40k. I'd seriously only be able to collect one. Let me put it this way. I recently purchased a bolt action army. By purchased, I mean like I slowly accumulated the models over time, and it cost me about as much as buying the rulebook and codex would be for Warhammer 40k. I actually have a 1,200 point Conflict 47 army, that basically a bolt action army. Which is a World War II kind of like alt historical game, which is Conflict 47 with like mechs and stuff. I have an entire 1,200 points, which is basically the equivalent of 2,000 points, and it cost me the same amount as buying a codex and rulebook for Warhammer 40k. Like, let that sink in for a moment. If you were trying to get into Warhammer, you've bought a rulebook, you've bought a codex. Me, I've bought an entire army, and I'm done. I have an entire army. And that's me. I'm sorted now. And that's the skill that we're talking about. And that is my big problem. This isn't like a case of like, well, Warhammer, you know, the models are a little bit crisper. They got a slightly better sculpt. They, you know, there's more quality. They're higher quality, right? It's not that. It's it's the degree of which, you know. And I don't believe that this is a luxury hobby. I don't believe that this is like, that this should be like the purview of people who are moneyed. I think that everybody should be allowed to get into wargaming. I think it should be affordable for everyone. Thank you very much for joining the advocate tier there, Campbell Kennard. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for joining the discourses. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Plus you get some sexy little emotes as well, and your own little unique little discourse badge with all the old classic skit characters that I really need to crack out again at some stage. Finally, I have retired from Smite, says Jason. Yeah. I couldn't paint a mini to save my life, says Valrath. I bet you would be surprised. I bet you would be surprised. The minis I paint are not very... I'm going to get a miniature. I will not have this. You will not write yourself off. One moment. You will see. Anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. Anyone at all can do this. Okay. It is not bad. Okay? You might never have really even used miniatures before. I think that this is one of those things where people really overestimate like how hard it is to do this stuff. Okay? This here, I'm not sure how well you can see him. Okay? This is a little German dude, okay? He is an evil little German. He is for my Conflict 47, my alt history World War II game. And he's like a little clone guy is how I've kind of themed him, right? And what this is this is literally someone has been sprayed black. I've taken a can of black primer that you can buy from like any hobby store or a Games Workshop store if that's easier. Chaos Black. And I just sprayed him with the black. That's it. Then I took a paintbrush, I dipped it in a pot of gray. I then dipped that paintbrush into some water for like half a second, kind of wiped off a bit onto a bit of cloth, and then I just painted his legs. Then I washed the brush, took a little bit of flesh paint. I actually took some peel sand. I've been talking with Dana too much. She's been rubbing off on me. So I took some peel sand, I put it on his hands. Although I came to regret that. I actually ended up just painting the hands gray later on because the skin was a little bit too hard for me. And that was it. And then I did a little bit of red. Done. Did a wash. A wash is like literally you just buy like non-oil or you buy like dark tone wash and you just dip your clean paintbrush into that and just put it on everything. Done. 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 That's my little German dude done. That's how easy it is. It's really not that hard. However, when you look at people online, you can see like shading and recesses. I think that the style that, for example, the heavy metal team who do a lot of the box art for the Warhammer stuff, I think they make it more difficult than it needs to be. They also show you like 30 different paints because they want you to buy paints, right? It's another one of these little ways that this kind of business model, the construction business model makes wargaming more complicated, more mysterious than it needs to be. You literally, like this guy is like literally like 2 paints, 3 paints if you count the red, and the green goggles, I guess 4 paints. That's it. That's it. That's all it is. That's all it is. This guy was even easier. This is actually a test game for my Space Marines, so you're getting spoiler here. I don't know if you can see him very well. This is literally, I was gonna say bulk on metal. This is lead belcher metal, just from paint pot onto model with a brush, and then gray trousers. That's it. Wash, done. That's it. It's really, really simple. The hardest part of painting is keeping in the lines, but it's like coloring. It's like literally, you know, like those paint by numbers. That's all the painting is. It's just paint by numbers, but with a little bit of paint. I was doing it when I was 13 years old, and I did so terribly. And that's fine. That's actually fine. And you know what you'll find? This is actually like the real secret sauce. What you'll find is that people who don't paint minis will be super impressed by the worst paint jobs. Because it's unfathomable to them. They're like, what? How did you do it? It's like magic, you know? You're like, look at this guy. Look at this guy. Super, like, and they're like, wow, that looks incredible. It doesn't look incredible. If I was to show this to like a person who is like really like all about their paint stuff, like if I was like Miniac or somebody like that, they would be like, wow, okay, that's right? I do tabletop quality. What that means is that it looks good when I'm like 30 feet away. That's my version of tabletop quality. I'm like 30 feet. I'm like looking up with binoculars being like, oh, it looks fine. Because they're so small, you're looking at them from above. They don't need to be painted really well. So you can paint them. You can paint them. It's really, really easy to paint. It really is. It's a lot easier to paint. It's really hard to paint very, very well, but you don't need to paint really very, really well. You know, this can be a much more accessible hobby. For sure. I really firmly believe that. I really do, because I am really bad when it comes to this sort of stuff, and even I can kind of do it, you know? I really can. Non-hobbyists absolutely love every single paint job, even if it's bad. They really do. Scython Nido says, exactly, I show my paint jobs to non-hobbyists, and they love it. They really, really do. So it's like a little, gets me, yeah. Let's see here. Ravdar says peel sanders over part, off-white covers all highlighting needs. Yeah, I mean, like, there's obviously techniques and things like that. There's things that you can do. But ultimately, I think what has never steered anybody wrong is just like a dry brush metal, which is where you just literally take like a dry brush and you just kind of dip it in a paint, and then you just like wipe as much of the paint off as possible until it's just kind of slightly on there, and then you just go really, 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 really quickly over a model like that. You go brush, and it'll leave like little bits. It won't like get a huge amount of coverage, but it'll just get all the like the raised edges. A dry brush metal looks incredible on almost everything. It really does. Absolutely fantastic. Lizzie Mini Painting says 3 colors in a wash, boom, model done. Exactly. And when you're dealing with army games, especially like that, like honestly, I will never get an army done if it's not to that like level, right? I will never complete an army if everything had to look like a heavy metal paint job, right? Or like the way Miniac paint, right? And they look incredible. Like those paint schemes, they look amazing. But I think that people these days unfairly hold themselves up to these much higher standards. But like before the internet, like people people were painting really badly and being really happy with it. They really were. I remember, like, whenever, so it used to be the case that you would only get, like, I learned how to paint in my local Games Workshop store in, like, 2004, and at the time, you basically knew what your Games Workshop store employees knew when it came to painting, right? They were the ones teaching you. And, like, I'll be honest, the ones I learned from didn't know a lot. They weren't, like, incredible painters either. So, like, it's cool. It's cool. Mr. Incompetent Gamer says, I'm not a great painter by any means, but I've been able to do bolt action, British, airborne camo, and Team Yankee, US woodland. That's incredible. Okay, woodland. Okay, so like camo, like military camo, like is pretty scary to me. I don't know how the hell you're meant to do that. I don't know how to do that. What I do is I just go like, I do like little black stripes is all I can do. It's like the equivalent of it. Amanda Kara says, Conflict 47 is a superior game to 40k, but inferior to Star Wars Legion. Amit, it's good. It's got my, So, Conflict 47, to be perfectly frank, so I recently reviewed it for patrons. I do, like, patron, like, reviews, basically, there. I do, like, little bonus videos once a month. And, I reviewed Conflict 47, and in my opinion, Conflict 47 is like one of my favorite mini war games. Now I am in like a honeymoon period. You know that moment where you get like hyper, like I don't know about a lot of people, but there's like a little I kind of hyperfixate, okay? Like I hyperfixate on things, and I have these big honeymoon periods of things. And right now I'm in a bit of a honeymoon period with Conflict 47 with bolt action, and which is actually getting us onto our next Warhammer topic, our next Adepticon topic. So that's actually a really good little transition there. So segue, totally planned. Like this was all planned from the very beginning. Oh, my battery ran out. So I recently did Conflict 47, and I'm really, really enjoying it. There are two mechanics about Conflict 47 bolt action that I really, really like. First is the activation system. So the activation system. Oh, sorry. So the activation system is the Rick Priestley special. It's the classic one. What you do is everyone has a colored die. This isn't correct, but imagine this is a D6. Everyone has a colored die, and they all put it inside a bag. So I've got like gray ones for my Germans, and the person I mostly play with collects Soviets. So they have red ones for their Soviets. And then, right, we put all our dice in a bag, a single die for every single unit that we've got in our army. So I've got like a squad of riflemen, that gets one die. If I've got like a tank, that gets one die, right? And so we put a die in, and then we shovel up the bag, we shake the bag, we go shake it, shake it, shake it, and then we put our hand and we ruffle around a bit, and then we grab around the die, and then that guy, whoever pulls a die out, like whatever color that die is, they activate a unit with that die, and that's how you go. So it's not you go, I go. It's not I activate all my guys, you activate all your guys. It's I activate one guy at a time, but we don't know when I'm going and when you're going. We don't know, so it creates this like fog of war effect. It's a ton of fun. Number one, that's like my favorite. That's like one of my favorite activation system of all time. But it's like one of my favorite game mechanics in a war game ever. Like Star Wars Legion has a very similar thing where you play a card. So whenever like different commanders, they have different cards, and they have an initiative on them. They've got like initiative 1, 2, or 3, and the person who plays a card with the lowest initiative gets to go first. Okay, but not only that, but each card has like either a special power on it. It's like you know, you may remove suppression from like X amount of people on your team or something like that, or it's like this guy chokes out another guy. I can't really remember any ones come to mind. I haven't played Star Wars Legion in like a year. So you have like these initiative cards, but also on the other side of that, right? Not only do you have those initiative cards, but they also allow you to put an activation token beside some specific units, which is really cool, right? Because the rest of your activation tokens, and every single unit in your army has an activation token, the rest of your activation tokens go on a stack, and you randomly draw from your stack to see who it goes. I go, then you go, then I go, then you go, and then every single time it goes, I can either activate by pulling a token from my stack and activating the random unit that is pulled, or I can look at one of the units that I have that have an activation token beside them, and I can activate that for sure. And how that gets randomized is the actual activation tokens are for troops, for tank or heavy support, or for operative, or for like leader, you know? So each type of unit is in that stack randomly. So that's a ton of fun too. I really like the Star Wars Legion as well, but I think I prefer the bolt action one just because it's much more chaotic. That's my #1 favorite mechanic of all time. Shake the bag! You gotta shake the bag! Discourse Games, CryptoCav is the is my handle on Twitch. So you gotta shake the bag, yeah. But number 2, my second favorite. Well, I don't know if it's better than the dice thing, but it's just my other, like, one of my favorite mechanics of all time in any war game ever. And I play a lot of war games. Is the pin system from Bolt Action, and I love this system because it creates. Do you guys know how in Warhammer, and this is a problem Warhammer has had for the longest time, how you interact with other units is, can I kill you? Can I destroy you? If yes, fire. If not, no. Or will I be able to destroy you in my shooting phase, right? So Warhammer kind of has this thing where the way that units interact with other units is mostly, now it's gotten a little bit better with 9th edition, but mostly it's in conflict. It's like, how do I kill you? How deadly is my weapon? And this actually creates these tiers of like, this weapon is just better than that weapon. And that's kind of the axes. In Conflict 47, in Bolt Action, when you shoot somebody and you hit them, but if you fail to wound them, if you fail your like to wound roll equivalent, you still apply what is known as a pin marker. And this essentially acts like suppression. So every unit gets like a pin every single time they're shot if that shot hits, even if it doesn't wound. So you can like focus fire on somebody to try and keep them pinned. Whenever the opposing unit wants to activate a model, if it has 1 or more pins on it, they have to roll what's known as an activation roll. That's essentially a morale check. And the morale check is you're trying to hit a target number, but your dice roll gets minus by how many pins you have. So the more suppression that your units take, the less likely they are to activate. What this means is that I can be going up against a force, and I can try to suppress my opponents to lock down a section of the map. I can keep opening fire with my machine gun in order to try and lock them down and keep them like a unit of infantry suppressed. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it creates so much possibility, creates so much risk. Whenever you go to like activate a unit, now you have to ask yourself, like, am I going to be able to? Is he too suppressed? It creates a ton of awesome gameplay moments. It really does. And really big gameplay moments. So for example, in the game, there is artillery and it can land on your opposing force, right? You can do like a bombard. But artillery is actually unlikely to kill anybody because it's like it's scattershot. It's like off-map artillery. But what it does do is it suppresses. It suppresses a lot. So people have to. You can get like 3 or 4 suppression from like a single barrage of artillery. Your guys like go to ground and like try to duck their heads and try to avoid the artillery. And what that means is that I can literally lock down my opponent for like a turn. Right? They're probably gonna get better. They're probably gonna like succeed. But boy, it is so much fun. And I thought that it came out. I thought it was Bolt Action specific. I thought that Rick Priestley had invented it for Bolt Action. And I was heaping on praise of him, but somebody told me that actually pinning happens. So I see here Catalyst saying that it happens in Horus Heresy. The pinning originally comes from Epic 40k is what I heard. I heard that it comes originally from Epic 40k, which really intrigues me and makes me much more interested in playing that game. So for those who don't know, Epic 40k is a 10mm game, of 10mm Warhammer game, and there have been some talks that at Adepticon we're going to see it's all full circle, guys, all full circle, that it's going to be coming to Adepticon. And I honestly wasn't super interested. I'm not really into my smaller scale like games. I like my 28mm. I like my 32mm. I like my ones where I can take my dude and I can do this. I can go, oh, look at this little head, you know. I like to be able to do that. I'm not really a fan of like the really teeny tiny kind of Gulliver's Travel sort of gameplay, right? I'm not like super duper into that. But as I've gotten older, I have found that I've been getting more and more interested in it. Like I have found that as I get older, like there's like definitely a graph between like my age and like getting interested in these types of games. So like for sure, I'm interested in seeing like the suppression, the pinning tokens, from the first time that they came out in, because apparently that's where they originated. I think Alessio Cavatore, and I am very interested in seeing them in action. It makes me a little bit more excited. Cryptocav says I played Epic 40k 3,000 years ago. Don't remember it much. That's fair. I do like them big. I do like them big crypto. I don't see why anyone. Why are people giggling? Why are people giggling? Snello Joel, hello there. Haley Anderson, hello there. Michael Wade says, I used to work for GW when Epic 40k was announced. It wasn't as much fun as the early 90s Epic. Well, I would have assumed that they would be dealing it more on the early 90s Epic as opposed to the later version. I would have thought. Michael Wayne says, I hate to do Epic 40k intro games. What did you not like about Epic 40k? What did you dislike? Valoraf says, I am designing games as a hobby. I'm working on a hybrid minis and card game. The idea is the players construct a deck with corresponding minis, and the cards you draw affect what you win and what you play. It's very similar to Undaunted in a way, right? Like where Undaunted, Stalingrad, it basically you draw from a deck in order to see what you can activate. I think I haven't played the game, but that's kind of my impression from reviews. Leopard says, roll the head, roll the dog. Actually, do you know what it sounds? It sounds exactly like Shatterpoint. It's the new Star Wars skirmish game. Shatterpoint, I think, uses that activation system where you draw from the deck and then it tells you who you can activate. I'm not 100% sold on that idea. I'm like not 100% sure about that, because like there are moments where like I really want to be able to like activate a certain unit. I really do, and I'd be really frustrated if I can't like activate like that type of unit. Like at least with Star Wars Legion, there's like a strategic element as to when you apply the activation tokens to what units, because you're like aware that you're gonna have to activate them. Modifier Fantasy says, now that you mention it, there was a pin marker in Epic. It was very different to Bolt Action though. Was it? Hello there, Restless Kaiser, by the way. Hello there. Mr. Incompetent Giver says, I also like how in Bolt Action 2-hit is based on the target unit's skill, taking into account how good they are at taking cover, spreading out and weaving. I agree, Mr. Incompetent Gaming. I like games to be as like streamlined and simple as possible, but I'm not opposed to crunch. I think that if they're trying to reflect certain things, they should try to add in mechanics for that. But I'm a little bit wary of games that add in like a ton of mechanics, but I do like that too. Haley Anderson says, I like 6mm, but I have some 2mm scale Punic War stuff. I think that was too small. 2mm, wow, okay, that sounds like very itty bitty, very teeny weeny, for sure. Cleo says, I want the challenge of painting the eyes on a 6mm figure as if they have eyes. That sounds insane. That sounds absolutely insane. That really does. As my voice is really going here. I recorded earlier. This is physically painful. maybe I shouldn't talk so much. Maybe I shouldn't be so like hyperactive and excitable. I can't help myself. It's Sunday, you know. You gotta get excited on a Sunday. Otherwise, what day can you get excited on? Mr. Incompetent Giver says 2-hit bleeding autocorrect. Yeah. Redobor says play Team Yankee and 3mm. Good scale for it. Ooh, oh god. Like 3mm seems crazy small to me. Like that seems insane. That seems really, really crazy. Kordak says Reaper's Rage Engine, and I think Malifaux uses a deck to determine unit activation, but it doesn't go down to which unit. Interesting. So I want to ask you guys before we start like getting ready to pop off, like what do you guys think? What do you guys think about maybe a stream at 3 a.m. in the morning for Adepticon? Should I ruin my life in order to do said stream? The way I ruined my life to do said Space Marine build. Should I do that for the Adepticon stream? I'm not 100% sure yet. At least in the Rage Engine, each player is either red or black, and you get one card for each unit. Shuffle them together, and you get the activated unit if your color comes up. Says Kodak. I haven't played the Rage Engine. I haven't played that, honestly. What game is that? I haven't heard of a game called Rage. From whence does this game come? From whence and where and what game does this come from? One Page Rules has a little bit of a pin mechanic, says Jason Moreno. Well, One Page Rules is kind of, I think they've been very clever about that. So they've also brought in a Fog of War mechanic as well, I'm aware of, where it's also the dice spike activation system. So there are some people out there, I think, and I've heard this said, that basically they don't think that a game, they think that it's like wrong or unethical in some way for a game to like basically take a mechanic that existed in one game and then just like literally put that into their game without really innovating. I totally disagree. I actually think that that's fine if it suits the game mechanics, if it reflects the theme of the game. I actually think that game designers should be taken from one another all the time, because there are really awesome games out there with really cool mechanics, and I honestly feel like collaborating in that way, like, you know, using game mechanics that work in one game and applying them to another game, I think that is 100% awesome. I think that's 100% awesome. So I've been happy to see One Page Rules. They've been taking mechanics from like other games and putting it into One Page Rules games. I think that's sweet, because One Page Rules game mechanics, like the Grimdark Future, for example, they're relatively simple. Like, they're a very fast, very playable game. They're relatively simple, and I think that's the exact perfect engine from which you can then add on these little extra complicated stuff. Like, they have like a campaign system and stuff like that. So that like hyper excites me. It really does. I think that's totally awesome. Lord Beard said 5 a.m. for me. Do it! Okay, guys. All right. Okay. Well, Hey, Dana says, I'll try and be up for the Adepticon stream. Don't know how I'm going to keep myself awake, though. Yeah, that'll be the trouble, right? That'll be the trouble. Campbell Kennard says, I think the number of people awake to watch would be less than usual, says Campbell. Maybe, but in America, I don't think it's, I think it's, like, evening, right? Like, why is it 3 a.m. for me? I think that it's, like, 7 p.m. in America. So, like, it'll probably be, like, it's the UK folk who are getting really screwed. Same with the Australians and stuff. All games need to learn from each other, like everything else is. Oh, totally agreed. Crypto Kev says, heal to modeling for advantage. Close your eyes, Disco. Love your channel. Go sub them. Also great unboxing vids. Yes, I love the modeling for advantage unboxing videos. I love to get me some history while I'm seeing some unboxing. Guys, unboxing's like my secret sauce. I really dig it. I really love it. I really love watching other people open products. I really do. I just think it's like really fun. It's like one of my vice. It really is. You know when people like to watch like Gordon Ramsay? Okay, well I kind of like to watch Gordon Ramsay. You know when people like to watch like reality TV and stuff like that? That what I love to watch are people opening boxes. That's the vibe I'm into. I like to live vicariously through others. I'm like, yes, I wish I could buy that box. Yes, that looks so good. Valor says, it's closer to a game where you had reserves to deploy as the game carries on. The cards determine what you're deploying during your turns. The play phase is about resource management and tactics. Sounds really interesting. I think that all good games should have, at the very least, one central mechanic that they do really well. I think that every single game, I think as game designers, the first thing a game designer should really like talk about is like what is a great. I think it was Joe McCullough, I think I heard say this, basically that every single game designer should like focus on like one awesome mechanic, and I think that is so totally true. And I've heard people say that the one core game mechanic like the Warhammer 40k does really well is a Warhammer 40k's game mechanic is list building. It does it really well, and I think that is totally true. And I absolutely think that is definitely what games should, because I play a lot of games, and there's some games where I play them, I'm like, this is kind of, I played this game before, you know. For sure. Seth says, if you can trap your players in abusive release cycles with FOMO and fear gravity, you don't need to learn. You should know that discourse minis. I do feel like there is an element of being trapped to FOMO stuff, for sure. I really do. And I get FOMO a lot of the time too. I feel a lot of FOMO. It's why I don't like FOMO. I feel like FOMO as a business model, it takes advantage of consumers. And I think it hurts especially like neurodivergent consumers even more than you know, like proportionally speaking. I think that it harms consumers overall. And I do not like the FOMO business model. I am not a fan of it. I understand that there are some places where, you know, like limited release runs because you've only got, you can only make so many miniatures because you're like renting a factory or something, I guess. Like I get that, right? But that I think that in terms of actually your entire release model, I think that FOMO is like really, really bad and should be avoided at all costs. That's why that's why I really like the Black Site Studio business model, because their Kickstarter is actually just their backroom event where they open it up to pre-orders, and then once the backroom event, the Kickstarter is done, then at that stage they will sell the game once they have obliged and fulfilled all the pre-order. I think that's really awesome. Guys, I'm killing myself. I really am killing myself. I've been up for a really long time. I played some Warhammer Fantasy RPG yesterday, and that was me getting some free time that I don't get a lot of, and it might have been it kind of has pushed everything back a little bit, so I had to record today, and now I'm drained, guys. I'm drained. There's too much hype. There's too much excitement. Crypto Keva says, any chance there's Den of Plunder here in the chat? Ooh. Lightpipe says, interested in watching your thoughts of the event, but I wouldn't be about at 3 a.m. That's probably fair. But that's why I try to keep the streams, up for people. Although, as I've been talking about, maybe doing some streams where, it's just really unfortunate, because I'm worried that if I do this, it might actually harm the channel overall. Even though I really want to do it, I'm thinking about doing some streams where I talk about things like the Silver Bayonet, where I like go through the books and I go through the new expansion. That's right, there is a. Am I allowed to talk about this? Oh, jeez. Can I? Ooh, am I breaking an NDA? Okay, guys, I might be breaking an NDA here. I apologize to Osprey Games. I really hope I'm not breaking an NDA here. I really, really hope. Otherwise, I've really screwed up. But there is a new expansion for the Silver Bayonet that I'm very excited for. the Carpathians Castle Fear, which is like a new campaign with a bunch of new units and stuff like that, with solo and cooperative play, and I am super hyped for that. I'm super hyped for that. But I would love to do like streams where I talk about this sort of stuff, and I like flick through them on stream and I talk about them, but I'm just really worried that like it will totally kill my channel. So yeah, there might be streams coming up where they might not like be on the channel permanently, but if I do something like an Adepticon reveal, then a stream, then that will be like up on the channel permanently for sure. Can I start a second channel, says Bruvo Micah? I've already started a bloody second channel. I did the RPG. I have the RPG channel. I do a video once a week for the RPG channel. I do a video once a week for the minis channel, and it's killing me, guys. It's absolutely killing me. Trying to get 2 videos out a week, it's just insane. It's just insane. But I'm trucking. For sure. Emergency snake, says Cleo. Yeah, I do need an emergency snake. Alas, I have gone through all of my emergency snakes. Monolith Virgin Fantasy says, I am always astonished to watch Discourse live. I thought you talked this fast and short out of a burst, but this is real time. We met each other in person, Kaiser. Surely you saw me at that stage over in last year at UKG. Maybe if you're at UKG this year again, we can get a drink or something. That'd be pretty sick. Third channel wins, says Sucha. Oh my god. I actually do. So this is the funny part. I do actually have a third channel. It's called Discourse Live. It's where I put all my Twitch live streams. But I haven't actually streamed on Twitch in a while because I haven't been able to find the time to do so. I've just been so crazy busy. But I want to start streaming on Twitch a bit more because I have a bunch. Firstly, I have a bunch of codes for Blood Bowl 3 I still need to give away. But also, I need to get to. I stopped like midway through a campaign of Arkham Horror and stuff, and I want to get back to those. Just start title episodes in your channel. Discourse Reviews, says Bomberman. Unfortunately, Bomberman, so it's like a big problem I have on YouTube. That's what I really dislike about YouTube. Every single video I do, I have to be really strategic about the videos that I do. I have to like really think about them. There's like a ton of work that goes into the background in terms of like what I talk about and when I talk about it and things like that. It's because videos like YouTube kind of sucks, because if you put out one video and it does badly, okay, fair enough. If you put out 2 videos and it does badly, that's bad, okay? Because every single time you put out a video and it does badly, next time it's not going to be shown to as many people. And if that does badly, then the time after that, it's not going to be shown to as many people. And then if that does badly, the next time it's not going to be shown as many. YouTube is like an engine, you know? And if you're doing well, you'll just keep getting better and better. And if you're doing badly, you'll keep doing bad, worse and worse and worse. And I have to take that into account whenever I'm doing stuff, unfortunately. So if I do something like Discourse Reviews, like the Silver Bayonet, as much as I would love to do that, I have to be really aware of the fact that, like, most people don't know what Silver Bayonet is, and most people actually don't care about anything other than Warhammer. So I'm going to get less views, less people are going to click on it. People who are really interested in Warhammer are going to click on that, and I understand like why, because they're not interested in that content. But then that might screw over like future content as well. So that's what I'm constantly fighting with. So that's what I'm kind of worried about. You're seeing if it's already pre-order on Amazon, says Mr. Competent Gamer. Whew, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the research there, Mr. Competent Gamer, for sure. Haley Addison says, Silver Bayonet, the one that's like Napoleonic Wars with Vampires, what was that? Exactly, yeah. So Silver Bayonet is, there are like, I wish I had set up my second camera for this. I don't know if you can see this very well. But yeah, it's like vampires and like werewolves. You play like Austria or Prussia. You play like Secret Service for a Napoleonic force, you know, like England or like France. And you're basically trying to hunt down monsters. And you're fighting each other. You can play adversarial. So I'm playing as Austria, you're playing as Prussia. And we're both like trying to kill the monster. And we're trying to fight each other to kill the monster, be the person that kills the monster. That's really fun. And there's like clue markers and stuff on the board, or you can play it solo/cooperative. Oh, thank you very much for the donation, Campbell Canard. I really appreciate that. Makes these streams like thank you very much. Says, what was that? Silver Bayonet, literally sitting here painting Napoleonic cavalry, and that sounded kind of Napoleonic to me. Yes, Silver Bayonet is about the wars of Napoleon raging Europe, and it's an alt history setting where it's a gothic horror where basically the artillery, like the Napoleonic Wars are so like intense and the world has never seen it before, that like the fire rate of artillery and the scale of battle actually opens up a rift in reality, and it causes all these like myths and monsters to come through, like the Fey realm, and like vampires and werewolves and undead and ghosts and banshees and things. And you're now playing as like the order of the Silver Bayonet are like a secret service organization that are trying to hunt down these monsters. And it's designed so that you can use your Napoleonic forces in a skirmish horror game. It's a ton of fun. I would really recommend. I haven't gotten to like play it really. I have some minis that I want to build, and I want to do that. I'm probably going to review it at some stage 100%. 100% for the patrons. But whether or not I'd like to cover some more of it on the channel, for sure. Ahmed Akara says Dracula's America. Is that a supplement of Night Black Agents? I don't know if Dracula's America is a supplement, but Dracula's America is another game I've heard a lot of good things about. Have I ever played the Call of Cthulhu RPG, says Stuart Thorpe? Yes, I have. I love the Call of Cthulhu RPG. I really do. I talk about it in I did a video on my Dungeons and Discourse channel, which is my RPG channel. I did a top 5 RPGs that aren't Dungeons and Dragons that I think you should play on Call of Cthulhu. I spoke a lot about Call of Cthulhu. Honestly, guys, can I toot my own horn for like one little second, guys? Can I please toot my own horn? Please, I don't like to do that. I don't like to indulge myself very often, but I do feel like I think I delivered the greatest pitch for Call of Cthulhu ever. I do think that might have been the case. I really do. I was very proud of that. I came out of that video. I was like, wow, I'm really proud of that. Unfortunately, the video kind of bombed. But I was very, very proud of that pitch. So if you are interested in hearing about Call of Cthulhu, a horror RPG, then I totally recommend it. Thank you very much for the gifted membership there, Crypto Kev. Gifted over to Leopard. That is so cool of you. Thank you very much. Guys, can we get some hype for Crypto Kev there in the chat? Osprey Games is a hidden gem for RPGs and miniature agnostic war games, says Amit. 100%. This is Osprey Games. They do a lot of, oh my goodness. It's not like right to hand, but it's close. It's close. I'll show you. Wait, right there. Where is it? Here it is. Oh, who is it? It is, of course, one of the very many Blue Book series. It is Zona Alpha by Osprey Games as well. It is, if you like the game Stalker, this is the war game version where you're playing as like Eastern European, kind of like Eastern Bloc mercenaries and zone guys fighting in the zone while like weird kind of like stuff happens, you know, like reality is kind of warping around because you're in like a contaminated zone where like all the stuff, you know, like Roadside Picnic, guys. It's like a really, really cool one. And there is a ton of games like this on the Osprey website. They're called the Blue Book series. They basically sell a ton of war games that are about everything you can imagine. There are fantasy skirmish games. There is everything over there, guys. There really is everything. If you want to play a Victorian skirmish game, you've got it, right? If you want to play some crazy sci-fi skirmish games, they got it. They really do. I think they do like Frostgrave and stuff as well. I mean, just for Shadow Deep. I think that's Osprey, but I'm not 100% sure. They are hidden. They are. And this is like their Blue Book series where they do like one of everything. They seriously do like one of every single war game. Whoop whoop crypto, says America. Yes, thank you very much, crypto. More Discord, sign me up, says Hellcat. Wolf Tramp says, couldn't you have a second channel for the reviews videos you think might do badly and so promote them via the community page and your proper channel? I think Zorbasorp does it for his live streams. Yeah, actually, so I spoke a lot with Lackey whenever he was making the live stream channel. Whenever we were talking about it a lot. At the time, live streams were actively harmful for a channel. They're active, and to some extent they still are a little bit. So whenever I do these live streams, they actually are a little bit bad for the channel because live streams, I think, don't perform as well as videos, right? Like I'll get like maybe 20k views on a video, but like on a live stream it'll get like 6k views. And so like live streams aren't as good for a channel, and that's why Lackey, he would do like live streams on another channel for sure. I kind of like the idea of having stuff like as centralized as possible, though. I really do. So it's definitely something to think about. Red Ouroboros says, sorry, I really struggled to say your name, Red. Ouroboros. I'm saying it like Matt Berry now. I can't help myself. Picked up a Kickstarter Call of Cthulhu in the Roman period. That's really, really interesting. I've read some extended fantasy stuff about Cthulhu that's set in the Roman period. It sounded really interesting. Culture says, Pathfinder is so much better than D&D. I used to play D&D, but now I still play Pathfinder, Starfinder, and a little bit of Cyberpunk 2077. I played the video game Cyberpunk. I thought it was kind of fun. A little bit buggy, though. Pathfinder is interesting. So I played Pathfinder 1 before I played D&D. When I got into RPGs, that was during the dark days of I was gonna say dark days of Warhammer. That was during the dark days of Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition. And so everyone that I knew, whenever I got into RPGs, people were like, "Oh, we're gonna play Pathfinder," and I was like, "Is that D&D?" And they're like, "Yeah, basically, yeah, it's D&D." So that's how I actually played Pathfinder before I played Dungeons and Dragons. I actually played Dark Heresy, which is the old Warhammer 40k RPG before. Feels so sad to say old. That is the old Warhammer RPG before Wrath and Glory these days. So I got into that because I went 40k, Warhammer 40k into Dark Heresy, into other RPGs. So yeah. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, of course. Pathfinder. So I have played Pathfinder 1, but I've never played Pathfinder 2 until now. If you guys know the Rules Lawyer is a Pathfinder content creator, and he invited me to join him and a couple of other D&D YouTubers to learn Pathfinder 2 on stream. And I am in that. I'm in that series. And spoiler alert, I'm having a blast. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm playing a little goblin gunslinger called Papa Fancy. And we're having an absolute blast. Absolute blast. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, Pathfinder 2 so far, I'm enjoying myself. I really am enjoying myself. Last Days by Ash Barker is fun too, says Mr. Incompetent Gamer. I would love to play some Ash Barker's games because I got a little bit of that parasocials. I've watched a lot of Ash Barker's content on Guerrilla Ministry games, even though I think that he probably would hate me if we were to meet. I really like his content, and so I really like his stuff, and I would really like to play some of his games. I just haven't like gotten around to it. There's just so many games to play, and I love playing games, and I'm right now I'm doing bloody Bolt Action. I'm catching up on that. There's so much stuff to play. Live streams are bad for a channel, but I only do live streams, says Lazy Mini Painting. Yeah, so they can be for sure, because they just don't get as much, like, people don't watch them as much, you know what I mean? Like they're basically videos that don't perform as well, which is why I try to be strategic about doing the live streams, you know? But I love interacting in live streams. That's the thing. Like, I love like chatting. And that's what you don't get with videos, you know? Like, I can go back and I try to respond to comments and things, and I read almost every comment, even when they're really mean. But I try to read them all, and hide the particularly nasty ones. But the live stream's like something different. Like, I can actually like chat, you know? I can talk about this. We do not talk about 4th edition, says Ken. There's a lot of people who really like it, and in fairness to 4th edition, I've never played it. So I could not say. Stuart Thorpe says discourse nerdiness makes my heart happy. Well, I'm very glad that it makes your heart happy, Stuart. It was not cool for the longest time, but now the nerds are in charge. Haha. So now we know. Vera says they do Gaslands, which is the cheapest mini games ever. Yes, I really want to try Gaslands as well. It's the one where you play with your Matchbox, you know, your like a Hot Wheels cars, and you just like literally customize those little toy cars if you want. That sounds like a lot of fun. It really does. I'm gonna care says not true. Some live streams and Twitch do very well. All you need is a paddling pulse, skimpy top on those ASMR fake ears. People make careers out of this. Yes, of course. You're allowed to be very, very suggestive in what you wear if you've got if it's a pool stream, if it's a bathtub stream, and so you put like a bathtub in your bedroom. I've heard about these. Maybe I should do that then. Maybe that should be the next stream. Should just be cut to me like in a paddling pool, with a snorkel on. Hello, am I doing it right? Vante says, our TM wants to try out Pathfinder 2nd Edition next week. We have no idea about the system, but I rolled 3 17s on stats. Not sure if I'm happy about good rolls or feel bad for being overpowered. Yeah, if you're rolling for stats, then you just have to accept it no matter what way it comes out. You know what I mean? So it's up to your DM to make a decision if they want you to do that or not. I'm just always obliged to the GM for sure. Although the Rules Lawyer does have the series where we're playing Pathfinder and we're sort of learning the system as we go, so it might be of interest to you then if you're kind of interested in it. Do not read the Carvin, says Marvin Nunez. I have to. I like reading the comments. I like hearing back from people and stuff like that, for better or worse. So I like reading the comments. I really do. Hammer Baptist says, a common tactic I've seen is people move their live streams to a dedicated channel, so private to replay here, and then move an archive with your live channel is my understanding. I mean, yeah, I do have a Discourse live channel, but I use that for the Twitch live streams. Silverthorn Godfrey says, I've lived in Ireland, Scotland, and London. Is your accent real? I thought Welsh was hard to understand. Please, Silverthorn, do not tell me I'm hard to understand. Oh, no. I've worked really hard to be understandable. I really have worked hard to be understandable. It could be because I'm talking too fast. I'm excited for Adepticon, and so that excitement comes through and like me like going really, really quickly whenever I talk. I can't help it, which is bad. Honestly, it's bad because I feel like I have a little bit of time and there's so much I want to say, so I try to get it all out. Better out than in. My accent is indeed real. Now some people have asked me like, how come they say discourse? How come y'all so suspicious of corporations? How come you're always like you always kind of think the worst whenever it comes to like business models and stuff like that? And the answer to that is that I have worked for a lot of larger global companies that are very profit oriented. So in my previous life, before all of this, I was involved in the legal sector. And I also was involved a little bit in the financial sector as well. And I've worked for big, massive global corporations. And what that means is that I have worked with a lot of Americans, especially Americans from New York. I've worked with a lot of New Yorkers. And so my accent is a Northern Irish accent, but that it has like gradually over time become modulated to be understandable, hopefully, to a Yankee Doodle Dandy audience. And so that is my accent. It's this like unholy abomination, this bastard child of a Northern Irish accent. So it has that kind of Irish, harsh, guttural lilt of the Emerald Isle, mixed with a more kind of modulated, softer Yankee accent, I think. So I used to work on a boat. I used to work like in the merchant navy. I used to work on a boat. I used to work on a vessel, and I worked with a lot of Scots. I worked with a lot of Scottish people, and I'll be honest, I couldn't understand them half the time. And people confuse me all the time with Scottish people. I'm like, no, I'm not Scottish. I'm not Scottish. Like my accent is very, very different from the Scottish accent for sure. But Davey says, I love your content discourse. Great to see some Silver Bennett in the channel. Well, thank you very much, David. I really do appreciate that. I really, really do appreciate that. I really do. It can feel a little bit like I'm out in the wilderness sometimes, for sure. Did we talk about the Lion's Return, says Brova Michael. Look, here's the thing. I get that, like, there is probably a video I could do on speculating about the Lion's Return. I know there are some people out there who have made that their entire business model. But I'm probably never going to do a lot of content like that. Like, I'm super excited about the wargaming side of Warhammer more than just the setting. Personally, just I get there's lots of people who really enjoy the setting. That's cool, and I like the setting. But I most of my content is wargaming stuff. I don't mind the lore. Like I've done lore stuff. But the kind of way I like to engage with lore is firstly, I actually do love the lore for Warhammer Fantasy, where I have actually just done videos where I'm like, here's all the factions of Warhammer Fantasy. There's like a third parter to that I really need to do at some stage. But whenever it comes to Warhammer 40k, I love to speculate about Warhammer 40k. I love to talk about like if you actually position the Gene Stealer cults against the Custodies, like how would that actually go? Or why does chaos actually emerge? I really love those sorts of questions. To me, that reminds me of whenever we used to be in the game store like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and we used to speculate, we used to talk about those questions, and that was really fun to me. That was how I always engaged with Warhammer lore, which was discussion and debate. So that's the kind of content I really like to do. So I don't really speculate too much about the Lion's Return. To be honest, here is the answer. Here is the definitive answer about the Lion's Return. Here it is. Valrak, eat your heart out, okay? Here is the answer. Every single Primarch is going to return. Done. Every single Primarch is going to return. If you do not anticipate every single Primarch returning, I'm bringing it to you right now. Every single Primarch is going to return. And the reason for this is because they sell really well and they are desired by the audience. Done. There it is. There is all the speculation completed. Every single Primarch is going to return. The Primarchs sell really well, and they are very, 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 very small amounts of work and effort for a very, 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 very high return. Okay, so what Games Workshop can do, and this is why we see a lot of a focus on single character models. Games Workshop make these single characters, which are just as much work to sculpt, maybe a little tiny bit more work to sculpt than like any other single model, any model that goes into your troop. They're just a little bit more work to sculpt, but they sell so much more, and they sell for like $30, $40 for like a single model. That's print money. And people love the Primarchs. The reason people love the Primarchs is that they're great merchandising opportunities. They're great for the franchise of Warhammer. You can sell books, you can sell plushies, you can put them on t-shirts, you can give them quotes, you can do the animations around them. People love Guilliman. You can talk about Guilliman all the time. You can do like these big massive events, and events sell lots of models, they sell lots of books. You can do like the Lion is returning, people can get hyped about that. You can be like, what's going to happen? What's the drama? You can do like a drama. It's like a soap. You can do like a drama about what the Lion is returning, and it's really accessible, easy content to do. It's really easy to do. So Games Workshop are going to do it, and we are 100% going to see the Lion return in 10th edition. This is not like actual speculation. This is like just obvious, like to anybody who's been paying attention, you know? Like it's going to happen. Every single Primarch is going to return. The bigger question I think, and this is like a more important question. Actually, now you're getting me. No, now you're getting me. Okay, right. Okay, so the big question to me is, in actuality, whether or not Games Workshop are going to put the final nail in the coffin for the sandbox nature of Warhammer and declare who the mysterious secret Primarchs are. There are 2 Primarchs that we know nothing about. Okay? And once Games Workshop have finally brought back every single Primarch, and there's only the 2 hidden Primarchs left, will Games Workshop put on the ring and finally give in to their urge and create those Primarchs because they know that will sell money in the short term? Or will they leave them open? Because the beauty of those 2 mysterious Primarchs is that it left the door open to everything. You could do anything you wanted. You could build any chapter of Space Marines and say it must be from a lineage of one of the Primarchs that we know nothing about. And that was cool. That was awesome. And there was mystery. But if they reveal who those are for the purpose of selling like a very, very, very expensive single character model, that'll disappoint me. That'll be like the final nail in the coffin for the sandbox nature of Warhammer 40k. I think that'll be like the Rubicon for real. That'll be like the actual crossing the Rubicon for real. But like, yeah, like every single Primarch is going to come out. Like every single one. Of course they are. The Lion is going to return. Like, of course he is. Of course he is. Like, I mean, I think like, why wouldn't they? It's going to sell loads of money. It's going to sell loads. It's going to make loads of money. Londrio says, I'm Irish on my mother's side and I'm loving me some Discord streaming. Well, thank you very much. I do need to work on my BBC English. Yeah, I do. Valentin says, after working in Ireland as a translator, I get how you pick up a local accent. I picked up Northern Irish, Northern English, Australian Irish while growing up in an American household. It's so easy to do. It really does. It's like osmosis. It's like osmosis. I know, $30 if only, says the Jake. To be honest, I don't even know anymore because I don't even like, you know. Well, hey, GW, will Ferris return? GW, yes, Ferris $sign will return. Dorn will never return, says Stuart Thorpe. He will. They're all going to, guys, they're all coming back. They're all coming back. Primarch sell for $150 and $140. Yeah, literally, like, for real, Angron sold for like, I think it was like $120, like £100. It's a single sprue. It's a single sprue. That's like nothing. That's like nothing. Like, it's ridiculous. Lehman Russ is coming. Like, they're big franchising opportunities. Like, the goal of Games Workshop is not to create like a coherent universe or to like, it's to sell models. Like, that's their goal. And like, people say that they're like, haha, yeah, Games Workshop is a business. I get this criticism all the time where I point something out and they're like, huh, what's this? A business is going to business. But like, yeah, and we have to remember what that means. Like, that has certain connotations. People say that as if it's like an answer to me saying the price rises are going up, and people are like, oh, business gonna business. What a surprise. Yeah, business gonna business. Like, the only reason we're gonna be able to stop that is if we take a kind of stand against it, you know? Now, I know there's a lot of people who are like excited for Primarchs, and to be perfectly frank, like, I don't really care that much. Like, for me, it's just not, I have one Space Marine army. I have one named character in the Space Marine army, and I'm gonna be pretending that is somebody else that I have made up. I've created my own custom Inquisitor and stuff, you know what I mean, for my Space Marine chapter. So like, that's what I'm into. But like, I'm not like yucking anybody's yum. I'm not saying that like anyone's like a dingus for like wanting Primarchs. I think I get why people want Primarchs, but it's just that like the idea that you can speculate about this is just like insane to me. It's so obvious. It's like, obviously, yes, they're going to make Primarchs. There's not even a question of it. I don't know how anyone could, like, anyway. I'm getting a little bit. A $5 for the Primarch fund, says Freaky Shop Roar, £5. Oh god, okay. Yeah, I mean, like, I could bet 100%. Like, I would bet 100%. I would bet, like, that they're going to reveal Primarch. I don't know what I would bet. I've already done a Space Marine army. But thank you very much for the donation there, Freaky Shop Bro. I really do appreciate that. I really do. Ferris Head and a jar confirms, says Javert. Dude, if they could sell a mini for it, they thought there was an audience for it, they would sell it. They would sell, for sure. Like, for sure. Like, this is the thing. And expect the lore to change, by the way, as well. Like, the Warhammer lore is going to constantly change, and it's going to change to fit all this stuff. Like, Warhammer lore has always changed. I was like, there was no Warhammer lore. When I started, it was like Warhammer fluff. It was like, oh, who knows what happened? Oh, the Emperor is like, kind of like, oh, spooky. When I first started, there wasn't the Horus Heresy book had just started coming out, and my friend had started reading it. And I was like, I'm not going to read those. Like, I don't think I'm really into the Horus Heresy stuff, you know? When I started, it was all still ruddy and mysterious, and since then things have changed. Like, I collected a Necron army when the Necrons were these faceless, unknowable automatons. They're completely different now. Like, Games Workshop will change things if they think it's better for the game, and it will result in more sales. And that's why I'm worried about the Primarch stuff, you know. And I think the game works better without Primarchs, but like, that's just my own personal opinion, and I get I think I'm in the minority there. I actually think that most people prefer to be able to buy and sell Primarch. I think the Primarchs are super popular. I think people really like the Primarchs. I really do. And I think people like it about Space Marines because it's like a personality that, let's be real, Space Marines don't really have a ton of personality. They have like color schemes, right? And so Primarchs imbue a ton of personality to chapters. Like they then they reflect personality onto their chosen chapters. Like Blood Angels get a lot more personality that way, right? When you know about Dante, for example, when you get Dante's personality, like that actually reflects in the actual Blood Angel force for sure. We're like way off the reservation here, people. CryptoCap, thank you very much for the $5 donation. Do not the Primaris. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you guys are gonna keep doing it, I'm not gonna be able to end. I'm gonna kill myself here on stream. But thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Valentine says, I hate the fact that named characters are such a big thing in 40k these days, since a lot of the tournament organizers don't allow proxy in them. A lot of the customization aspect gets lost this way. I think that the customization aspect is going to get lost from 40k, generally speaking. And I'm really curious to see what they do with customization in 10th edition, because Warhammer is changing, guys. Warhammer is changing from, you know, you build your army, you buy your squad, and then you can pick a bunch of different weapons for different points. I think that 10th edition is going to be all in on power, getting rid of a lot of that stuff. I really do. Even easier to build, you know? And I think that we're gonna see characters that do not get any customization at all from now on. Like when you buy the captain, you buy the captain with the power fist, or you buy the captain with the power sword, and you have to buy each model separately. I think that's the future. I think that is where we're heading to. I mean, we're already there in a lot of ways, right? We're already there. And I don't think it's just gonna be named characters. I think it's gonna be generic choices are gonna have like some of those options restricted for sure. And it might start in an index because Games Workshop might utilize the excuse of, well, it's a big index, we couldn't fit all the options in. But I think when the codices come out, I think it'll probably end up being the same way. Yeah. Stuart Thor says, I want more Minotaurs. They bad guys like the Imperials. Yes! Hell yes! Yes! I'm basing my chapter on kind of like the Minotaurs. I'm making a very pro Imperium, like evil Space Marine chapter. I'm planning on doing like a 24-hour paint all the minis video that I hope does better than the build all the minis video, because that was a lot of work for not a lot of views, to be perfectly frank. People weren't really interested, so I hope that people are interested in when I paint them all. But whenever I paint them, I'm hoping I've bought these little special pans that allow you to paint things with a pen, and I'm going to be like inking my Space Marines with like the words hate and destroy and kill and stuff. I'm going to make them like overtly like old school Imperium, like very Blanchett, very Blanchett. So I'm really looking forward to it. Monopost chicken nuggets for everyone. It's a symbiote, yeah. Valentine says the beautiful thing about Space Marines was that they were blank slates. You're allowed to turn them into whatever you want. These days they go more in on selling a franchise instead of creativity. Yeah, I think that's what people really loved about Space Marines, was that they could build them, and like the Space Marines like were the, I mean, like ultimately Space Marines I think are power fantasy, and people really like that element of them. And they could kind of like theme those, because you had the different chapters, you could theme your Space Marines in a direction that just kind of made more sense to you, that you preferred, you know? Like I have a friend who is a Blood Angels fan. He's not like necessarily, he likes Space Marines, but like he's a Blood Angel guy, you know what I mean? Like he likes Blood Angels, and I get that. I do get that. Yuli Dubafik says, I hate named characters in all the games because they're usually better, but I want my armor to be mine, so no named characters on the ones I choose to name. I totally understand that. I like to see, I'm a narrative player. I play a lot of narrative, so I like to create characters for my army. I like to create like storylines for my army, and then I like to clash in like these narrative games and campaigns, you know what I mean? So like that's what I love to do. That's what I really love to do. And I agree, I'm sort of sad to see some of that kind of go away, honestly. And I think that they still do it like in some of the skirmish stuff, but then you look at Kill Team and you're like, yeah, a lot of the customization elements have stopped. Thank you very much for the donation there, Red. For the $5 donation, says a little towards the paints for your Marines. Well, thank you very much. My goal with the Space Marines is to be an accessible paint scheme, right? Like so that you can watch me literally paint 2,000 points worth of Space Marines in 24 hours in a single day. 2,000 points, and be like, I could do that. Like I could actually paint, and I could paint minis like that. And I hope that is my hope and my desire. So thank you very much for the donations. I really do appreciate that. It turns out that actually consumables like paints are actually what most retail stores rely on, because that's what people end up spending most of their money on. But thank you very much. Silverthorn Godtree, thank you very much for the $5 donation as well. Says, I played 40k since Laserburn. the OG name, same for Classic Warhammer, the 5th Chaos God, Matt Ward. Thoughts on his lore, metal minis forever. You know what? I used to hate metal minis. I've hated metal minis. I started on the metal minis for Sisters of Battle in 4th edition Warhammer. I hated metal minis, and I couldn't handle them. And you know what? I've been doing a lot of bolt action minis, and bolt action minis, I think they've got the same sculptor from like the 2000s era Warhammer. They are very, very similar to those old school ones, but they've started to grow on me a little bit. Like these shock troopers here, I can't say who they are because last time I did that, the video got demonetized completely. Whenever I mentioned these Conflict 47. Oh no, did I say the bot? Did I say the World War II N word? I don't know if I did or not, but these guys here, they're truly metal, and I actually really liked working with them, which was a really big surprise to me. But thank you very much for the donation. I really, really, really appreciate that. Bomberman, thank you very much for the $10 donation. Says 10th prediction. Okay, 10th prediction. Firstborn Marines will be heavily removed from the next codex, and more than one Loyalist Primarch will return before the end of 10th. I actually think you're onto something there, Bomberman. I really do. So I totally agree with you. I think the Firstborn Marines will be heavily removed because I think there's going to be an index and they're going to constrain the list a lot. I think the Firstborn Marines are starting to be on the way out, which is really unfortunate because I got like a friend who like collects all Firstborn. So like, but like, yeah, I think they're on the way out, and I do agree as well with the Primarch. I think that Valrak is wrong. There's actually going to be multiple Primarchs that emerge over 10th edition because there's a lot of money to be made there, and I think that they are preparing for like a sort of Warhammer sort of cinematic universe perhaps in the future. I think they want to get these larger than life characters out there because you can like put like, for example, like if they do like another collaboration with Warhammer with Magic the Gathering, like they can put more characters. Like more characters is more creative opportunities for like franchising and stuff. And look, here's the thing, people want more Primarchs, so like I think Games Workshop are going to give it to them. I really do. I think you're definitely onto something. Lazy Minipini says, will you be using deluxe paint for your Marines? So I will be using Citadel paints. So this entire Space Marine thing, the goal of it has been to use everything Games Workshop stuff because I kind of want to tally up the cost of it all at the end and be like, was this a good idea? Was this a bad idea? And like talk about that and how I could have saved money if I had gone to other brands, right? So there's actually I have a secret agenda with this Space Marine thing. Likewise, I've wanted all the Space Marine stuff to be WYSIWYG and things like that because I haven't committed to this 100%, but I think I might be giving away the army as part of a charity exercise. I just don't know what that looks like. I don't know how I would do that. I don't like, so I'm thinking about like doing a charity thing with the Space Marines or something, or giving them away, or like doing like an eBay thing. I don't know. So, but I want them to be playable like in a Games Workshop store, essentially. So everything has been like WYSIWYG. So there's like a bunch of like stuff going on there, but I'll probably be using like Citadel paints, to be honest. I'll probably be using Citadel paints. Could I do a heresy prediction? You know, I don't really cover it, but I'm just curious as Yuli. To be honest, Yuli, I think it's just gonna be some more plastic tanks. I'm not like super, like if we look at the latest release for the latest announcements for Horus Heresy, it was literally a worse deal for consumers. It was, what they have done is they have taken the resin dreadnought. So every single Horus Heresy faction, every single chapter had a or legion rather, every single legion had a special dreadnought that was being sold by Forge World, and they came with the arms, it came with the legs, it came with the torso. They got rid of those. They've brought out some plastic ones, I think, but the plastic ones are generic, right? So for example, like the Blood Angel one had like Blood Angel stuff, you know what I mean? Like it was like they weren't generic on the Forge World thing. They got rid of those arms and legs, and now they're just selling an upgrade sprue for the dreadnoughts, which is just literally the torso, which is like $25, I think, for like just the torso. Like that's a worse deal because it was like proportionally you're paying way more for just the torso, because now you've got to buy the plastic kit and the torso in order to get it. I don't like this upgrade model. I don't like this, like you have to buy one kit and then buy another thing to upgrade them. I think that all the options should be in the box as much as possible. I really do, but but I think it's just gonna be more plastic. I don't think there's gonna be like super exciting stuff for Horus Heresy personally. I think it's gonna be more like, it's just gonna be like some plastic kits and things like that. Bruno Michael says, do you think if Amazon 40K movie will be successful, will Amazon buy GW? I don't think so, honestly. I don't think Amazon would buy Games Workshop we'll have to see. Obviously, so the licensing stuff, you can hear my voice now, guys. It's totally going. I'm in pain. You can hear that. I think that the Amazon. I don't think Amazon will buy Games Workshop necessarily. But I do think that I do think it depends a little bit on how successful the entire cinematic universe is, right? Like, they're already talking about cinematic universe, which I think is a little bit like like a horse and cart sort of thing here, guys. Like, I think we should walk before we can run. That's kind of what happened to DC, right? Like, I think that slow planning is the best way to do a cinematic universe. So we'll have to see how well it does. I am hopeful that it does well. Like, I want Warhammer Media to do better, because if people are talking about a war game, I'm hopeful that we can get more war games out there too, right? And I don't want to put Warhammer in a big bag and be like, ha 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 ha, and run away and eat it, for supper or whatever. Actually, I'm really hungry now and I'm talking about it. I want Warhammer to do well as well. I want it to be affordable. I want as many people as possible to be able to play it. When is the announcement coming, says Polex? It's coming next week. So I think that it is Wednesday, 3 a.m. my time. That's UK time. So I think that might be, or no, it's Thursday, 3 a.m. my time. So I think that's Wednesday evening for American audiences. Any Phobos Marie nobody wants, I'll give them a home, says Lizzie Mini Painting. Wow, still going with the stream. We still talking to Adepticon, says Pixie. Yeah, you're right. Guys, I got a video I gotta edit that's meant to be coming out tomorrow, and I'm not done. I really need to do this for sure. Kodak says, honestly, I can see Hasbro buying GW. Wizards of the Coast have been trying to break into minis for a long time now. GW would be the easiest way for Wizards of the Coast to get a good foothold in minis. It would be a very expensive purchase. It really would be. It'd be a very, very expensive purchase. I'm not 100% sure that Hasbro are big for sure, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Games Workshop are very parochial, but we're seeing Games Workshop get to be a little bit more mainstream now. I think it increases the likelihood that a larger corporate entity purchases them. But Games Workshop are not a small rinky-dink operation, even though they kind of act like it sometimes. Games Workshop are $1 billion, they've got a lot of money themselves. They'd be very, very expensive to buy. Amit says Netflix should buy Warhammer Plus and then cancel it. I kind of agree. Steve McGrath said, but the thing is with Games Workshop is, Games Workshop do not like to share. They do not like to do anything they don't have corporate control over. They like to have corporate control over everything. Remember the file animation stuff? Because I still remember. I'm still keeping that dream alive. All the file animation stuff. Games Workshop had to have it, right? Do not like anything to be outside of their control at all. That's why they try to shut down smaller creators and stuff and throw out smaller 3D STL file sellers and stuff, for sure. 24 Painting Black Temple Fig coming out soon. Yes, it is indeed, Liam. I'm thinking next month. It comes out. I can only do one of those like a month, guys, because it's a killer. It really is a killer. Have you seen the animation for Warhammer Plus? What do you think of them, says Vijay? So I canceled my Warhammer Plus. I was actually subscribed to Warhammer Plus because my plan was to do I watch all of Warhammer Plus, so you don't have to, a video where I literally review absolutely everything. Some of it was a lot better than you think. Some of the animations. And I probably am still going to come, because I recorded some stuff for that, so I probably will come out with something like that. But yeah, in terms of Warhammer Plus, I actually liked a lot of the animations, but I think how they treat their creatives is absolutely despicable, including the animation teams that are working on a lot of the Warhammer Studio stuff. Do you ever notice that a lot of the animators aren't credited either? Animators don't like that. The animators are not a fan of that. And also, from what I understand, a little birdie has told me that there's issues with pay and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff about how employees are being treated and how outsourced employees and contractors are being treated. I like to talk about whenever it comes to Warhammer Plus. So maybe if I do a Warhammer Plus, everything going on with Warhammer Plus video at some stage. For a play the building video, it looked horrendous. Great viewing though. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Liam. Honestly, whenever I was watching it back, right, and I was having to that was a lot. Firstly, there was 24 hours of footage to edit and go through. That was really, really tough. So fair play to my editor, Glenn. Thank you very much. And there was a lot of stuff there, but whenever it was done, we actually did a cut that was 40 minutes long, and actually that's the one I released to patrons. It was a 40 minutes long video, but I was trying to get it as low, as short as possible. So the patrons got a little bonus 10 minutes or so, or 8 minutes. And then for For everybody else, he got like a 30 minutes video, and I think like it was really good content. Honestly, I was really happy with it. I thought it came across very well. I thought it was a lot of fun. Like by the end, I was like absolutely woozy, losing my mind. Like I've been up for 33 hours at that stage, like building Space Marines, trying to read the instructions, trying to build the Dreadnought without an instruction manual was absolute hell. Like trying to build a Space Marine Redemptor Dreadnought without an instruction was absolutely insanity. And trying to do that on like having not slept in over 24 hours was just insane. So it was a fun video for sure. I think for watching, it was hell to perform. It was hell to do. For sure. Okay, I'm using so I use DaVinci Resolve. I use DaVinci Resolve. Universal Dark Universe Flashback says Mr. Incompetent Gamer. Oh yeah, I remember that. Okay, guys. I gotta go. Yeah, Elfrin says Patreons get exclusive access when Discourse loses it and talks to the minis. Something like that. All the new kits are wild. I was a bit punch drunk for sure ahead. I really was. I really was. Those kits get really complicated. I haven't built like new kits. The newest kits I've built were Gene Stealer Cultists. Yeah, they're the newest kits I've built, I think, because I collect like Dark Eldar, which a lot of their kits are still from 2010. So I think Gene Stealer Cultists, yeah, are the newest things, for sure. So Space Marines were really tough. Space Marines were really tough. All right, guys, I gotta go because otherwise I'm gonna expire, like literally right in front of you guys. I really am gonna expire. But thank you so much for your support. Thank you to everybody who donated. Thank you to everybody who joined it. Thank you to everybody who chatted. Thank you to all my patrons. Thank you to all the members watching as well. I really do appreciate it, guys. I really do. Thank you so much for making this possible, for making this channel possible. And it's been a really big fun pleasure. I love meeting with you guys. I love chatting with you guys, and I look forward to doing this again soon. I think we're gonna be looking at another stream perhaps next week. Another stream next week. Oh boy. Or if you want to see me delirious and talking to minis, I think that will be it. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. And if you haven't checked out, if you are interested in RPG, check out my Dungeons and Discourse channel as well, where I do this, but for RPGs. Hey. Thank you so much, guys. I'll catch y'all next time. And as always, if you do want to support the channel, by the way, check out my Patreon. All right? Because Patreon makes this possible, so thank you very much. Patreon.com/Discourse Minis. Get yourself some discount codes for some 3D print sellers. Thanks very much. I'll see you guys. I don't know how to end this without it just cutting off, so I'm just gonna give it a second. I'm gonna like twiddle my thumbs, actually twiddle my thumbs while I kind of give it a second, so that I can now end stream, and at any stage it will all end. Thank you so much, guys. Bye bye. End stream.